Welcome everybody to episode Oceans 13. My name is Ryan. With me as always is Robbie. Robbie, how you doing today?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
Oceans 13.
It's the last time I could do that.
No, fair enough. I saw Brad Pitt had said that he was not going to do an Oceans 14 because unless he was really desperate for money. So, you know.
Is he though?
I don't know. But it'd be very easy to do an Oceans 14. You just bring Sandra Bullock in from Oceans 8 and then you add an extra cast member.
That's true.
And have the twist of like... have you seen Oceans 8?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, the fact that they're related to... She's obviously the sister of Danny Ocean and that he's supposedly dead. They'll just say that he wasn't. He was faking his death or something.
Yeah, to get away from whoever.
Debts something, whatever it is. People want to kill him.
Yeah, right. Now, to throw you under the bus straight off here, you've got a correction to make from a previous episode.
Yeah, episode 12, we were talking about Mulan. I had a massive brain meltdown when we were just talking about it, and I, for some reason, was thinking, I was about to say, you remember this, because I edited it, so it probably wouldn't have sounded so bad, but I said cricket, and I meant, I said praying mantis, but I meant cricket, and I was thinking it wasn't a cricket because of Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio. So I double guessed myself and then went, is it a praying mantis? And I'm like, there's a dragon and there's a... So yeah, it's a cricket. And I should remember this because his name is like Cricky.
There you go. You'll know for next time. And we have to thank my girlfriend Anne for that.
Yeah, she was like, oh my God, Robbie, no. What are you doing?
She told us later that she was literally yelling at her phone, listening to it.
You're like, no.
So that's right. We'll hear more from her later on as a
definitely.
special guest review.
Yeah, extra guest. Awesome. I will let you talk about the first thing, which is related to our Star Wars screening, which we didn't get to talk about.
Yeah, so when we went to go see Star Wars, I think we were still processing what happened, that before we went and saw it, we went and had dinner just at the little restaurant beforehand, and we ran into Johnny Brower and Cohen Holloway from What We Do in the Shadows. Initially, we just saw them across the way from us, eating their dinner. We, were like, oh, look, famous New Zealand actors.
And they're both comedians too, so...
Yeah, they would have just come from the local comedy club. And it wasn't until they were up and leaving, and Cohen Holloway said to us, or have you just come from the screening? And we said that we were just about to go to the midnight one.
I think it's worth noting that we had all this, like, the Star Wars merch that we basically bought popcorn.
We had, like, popcorn and drinks.
Sitting at this table
that.
because we'd bought it all in advance, knowing it was going to get really busy upstairs, which I'm glad we did because it was chaos by the time we got back. So he's seen all this, and we're wearing, like, Star Wars t-shirts and had lightsabers and all sort of carry on. So it was pretty obvious. Yeah,
and... Yeah, so it was kind of nice that, I guess they sort of interacted with, Cohen Holloway interacted with us because of that. And
had a chat.
And both he seemed real nice.
Yeah, they were nice, and both of them seemed like they were wanting to go see the movie. They were about to leave, so it was nice of them to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, with that aside, we've got a lot of news, so we're not going to ramble any longer. We're going to try and do this as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, so we'll try and spend about a minute or so on each, because there's just so much has happened since Christmas when we last recorded a proper episode.
Yeah. We'll go through the recent deaths that have come out over the past, month or so, give or take. Sid Mead, who was a sci-fi artist for Blade Runner, Aliens, Star Trek, Short Circuit, and Tron. He died at 86. He'd only retired a few months earlier.
Yeah, so it was at the very end of December, I think, and he'd only retired something like August or September. It was literally only a couple of months beforehand. Sid's designs have been very influential in a lot of things, even like stuff that he wasn't directly working on would inspire other people to work on things, or he'd work on a little project, like one of his designs, I think it would have been for something around Blade Runner, or prior to that inspired something in say, Return of the Jedi. Yep. He's very much a conceptual designer in that things are very practical but futuristic at the same time. There's very much like a cyberpunk aesthetic. Something like the upcoming cyberpunk game that's coming out is, for example, very much...
It's probably influenced by his work.
Definitely. And Blade Runner, obviously the legacy of Blade Runner continued. The stuff that was in Blade Runner 2049 was very much influenced by his work on the original and his design aesthetic. He's very much a huge design contemporary of the current age, and will continue to be referenced, I suspect, for the coming future.
Absolutely. There was also Christopher Tolkien had died as well, son of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, who was
famous Lord of the Rings and Hobbit.
Exactly. He was very instrumental in getting his father's book published. He was the kid that read The Hobbit and told his dad what he thought of it and gave it a review, which allowed him to continue making his series into Lord of the Rings.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he wrote it and he read it and basically was his first editor essentially for the project, even though it was only a few years of several, like 5 or 6 or something like that.
Because I think The Hobbit's sort of more for kids than
that was the idea.
Yeah.
It was like more of a kiddie story. I can't remember. He came up with something to do with it that his dad really liked and added to it as well. But he was very instrumental in the way that the franchise has been held into its regard. He was very protective of his dad's material. After his dad died, he was very much instrumental in continuing to make sure that the rest of his works were published, and even if that meant completing some of it himself. And obviously, he had a love-hate relationship with the film franchise and how that went. Obviously, the estate will continue on, and there's other members of his extended family, and they will take it over.
The Amazon series, which is filming here soon.
Exactly.
Or at the moment, I should say.
Yeah, the one that no one's supposed to know is what's being filmed. Yeah. So everyone knows it.
Yeah, it's so secretive, everybody knows about it.
So, that was a bit of a shame, but, I mean, he was, again, just what it is.
Yeah. And sadly, we lost another Python. We lost Terry Jones at 77.
Was it 2 down, 4 to go now?
Yes, I think John Cleese had coined that. He was the first to coin that.
Well, it comes from the
from
old
the 5 down, 1 down, 5 to go, rather. Yeah. But yeah, he was, when Terry died, he was the first to coin that phrase.
Terry was very influential as far as like the stylistic part of what we saw for the Pythons, especially when it came to directing. He was directed the films that they worked on in particular, and he was still a director outside of it. He was also a writer. And obviously a very much a important cog in the wheel of all the Pythons. Not that any of them are more important than any other, really, in that respect. They've all got their parts that they brought to the troop. So it was a shame to see that. I remember reading a couple of years ago that he'd been diagnosed with it was like onset Alzheimer's, like quite severe particular type, and so the expectation was, I think the last couple of times he made public appearances he couldn't even speak.
Yeah,
he was cognitive,
like a BAFTAs or something. Yeah, he got like a lifetime achievement or something. Yeah.
Well, the last film he worked on was 2015's. But it's Simon Pegg's in it. So Absolutely Anything, I think it is, or something like that. And he ends up with it's like kind of almost like a Bruce Almighty kind of thing. Where he ends up with these abilities, and ends up being able to talk to his dog. And there's some of the Pythons come in and do voices and stuff like that for things. And it wasn't a bad film, but it was his last film. So yeah.
All right. And one final thing about Terry Jones I'll say is that he's a very naughty boy.
You had to do that.
Yeah, I had to. Somebody had to. We'll move on to Oscars because we'll touch on this briefly, or because we don't want to go on too much about this. It looks like another case of hashtag Oscars so white male. Sorry, I should have read
wasn't
that
just
fully,
male, but yeah, Oscars so white because it is. There's no they had opportunities to nominate female directors. There's nothing. The diversity of the thing. The most diversity you've got is Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, basically, which is not a surprise because it's everyone's raving about the film. So, but for the most part, you're not seeing a very much diversity at all. And the same thing came up again with the Globes that came up with the BAFTAs. I think all these awards.
The only other probably diversity there is probably Taika. I guess is sort of not American.
Yeah, he's not American, and he's half. Yeah, there's a half mix here in New Zealand. So It's very much a thing. Oh, and the Oscars are a few days. Monday, I think it is here. So by the time we put this out,
it probably would have already been.
There's some big shocking missing bits. We've talked about the fact that Apollo 11's missing off the documentaries list. People have pointed out the Little Women part of Greta Gerwig not being director nominated. Just several different things, and I could just go down a rabbit hole of horrible Oscars things. But I mean, they're not doing a host again this year.
Here's something I want to know: like, if this is going to be like the second year in a row without a host, and it's going to be hashtag Oscars so white male, like, do we even really need it? Do we need the Oscars for anything at all?
Well, here's an interesting opportunity. Why don't I counterpoint that? Why not then? If the complaint is diversity and we can't change the awards now because the nominees are out, at least make all your presenters diverse. Run a gamut of diverse people and do it properly just to say, look, we know there's something wrong with the system here, but at least we're going to show a face to be forward. Some people will still complain about it. They're just like, it's all show for nothing.
There's too many females. There's too many coloured people.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that the effort seems too little considering the awards themselves. But at least it's something. It's better than continuing to double down on that trend and still being more of the same of the awards for the presenters too. But unfortunately, historically, what they tend to do is the people who won the awards previous tend to present the awards.
Yeah, for the next year.
So if the system never gets changed and you only have a certain number of categories,
that's fair.
Yeah, we should move on because otherwise we'll just we're going to keep going about the Oscars.
We're going to touch back on Brad Pitt from the top of the episode about Ocean's 13. I saw something on Facebook that somebody had realised that in Ad Astra, the space Brad Pitt movie, is that it contains the three things that don't impress Shania Twain. One is a car.
Several cars, including a moon buggy.
Yeah. I think that was the picture that was used anyway as an example. Yeah, so
but they still look like cars.
Yeah, so a car doesn't impress her. Being a rocket scientist doesn't impress her.
He's not exactly a rocket scientist, but there's rocket scientists in the movie. I can kind of see this, but okay.
And then being Brad Pitt himself. Three things that don't impress Shania Twain, and I thought that is pretty funny.
I wonder if she's actually commented to say I actually didn't mind the movie, or like I hated the movie. Yeah, that didn't impress me much at all.
I'm not sure. Like I know she retweeted that, or she shared it somewhere, so I think she appreciated the joke.
That's pretty funny.
But I don't know whether she's actually seen the movie.
Oh, that's all right. Funny enough, the other bit of news that came out, Brad Pitt, he's been talking a lot related to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, kind of as we've been talking about the Oscars, has been doing all right with the awards season. He's come out, he made this very big speech, was it the Globes, where he made the Screen Directors Guild or whatever it was, SAG Awards, I can't even remember, but he basically threw Tarantino's foot fetish into the spotlight again, making jokes about how he enjoyed all the actresses' feet. Feet. That's it. But then he made a comment. He was talking about films that he's missed out on. And he doesn't normally talk much about these, and he said he wouldn't. But he said, "I will mention one thing that I did turn down in 98 was The Matrix." So he's another
very surprising.
Which was very surprising. I would like to know what the intended role was, if it was the main character or something else. I'd be very interested to know. But anyway, that's all that came out of it. But he said there's others, but he's not the type of person to talk about it. He's like, if I got a role, I got a role, and if I didn't, well, then it was not meant to be. Which I think is a very pragmatic way to approach it. Funnily enough, on that Matrix bend, they have actually started talking more about the sequel. They're bringing back the Merovingian, which is an interesting twist, I think. Not exactly the most universally loved character out of the sequels.
Probably not, no.
And it makes me wonder if they bring Monica Bellucci's character back.
Persephone,
yeah. The other bit of news that came out was that Hugo Weaving, unfortunately, was committed to filming another role. So they had asked him if he'd like to come back, and he was keen, but the scheduling conflicts didn't work out. So he won't be back. So no Smith. Which is a bit of a shame.
It's possible there could be other agents, because there were
that's
other
true.
agents.
And you never know the way the script may work. They may figure that they need to put him in there somewhere, and he turns up and shoots a day when he's free.
Yeah,
you never know.
It'll be like a post-credit scene or something. Or,
exactly. So it is a bit of a shame, but I mean, if it's for the purpose of the plot and it wasn't that important, obviously they're moving forward with it. And who knows, if it does well enough and they decide to make another Matrix.
Or another trilogy or something.
Another trilogy, then we'll figure it out. There's rumours on the internet surrounding it, and I talked to you a little bit off the podcast about this a little bit, but I don't think I really want to talk about it too much now, maybe for another time. Where it becomes relevant, but it'd be very interesting if that's the case.
For sure. We'll move on to, I don't know how many times we've talked about this, at least in every past episode.
I love the fact that this is a continual thing. This is like every episode. Here's your Uncharted news update.
Yeah, we almost need, like, was it the airplane with the Morse code and the sticks and all that?
The guy with the drums. I love when he turns to the camera.
Yeah. So Uncharted has lost its sixth director.
It's now looking for its seventh.
In Travis Knight, and it's now looking for seventh. Yeah. And it's now delayed until March 5th, 2021.
Which is probably not his last delay, let's be honest. No, like at this point.
Probably not. I think at this point...
Are we going for 12?
I think at this point it's probably not going to get made.
It's better that it doesn't. But films do go through a long development.
That is true.
These do happen. Sometimes you don't realize how many directors a project goes through. It just happens to be that
I think this is probably very public.
Why do they keep announcing them? This is the problem. If they didn't announce them and they just disappeared, we would never know. But I guess they want to make sure that people know that it's still happening.
Yeah, or at least
not that anyone cares. But,
yeah.
Apparently we do, but,
Yeah, because, we kind of have to care because we have to bring it to the masses. We have to bring that news to the masses.
And we're talking about
who may have not seen the news previously.
Very much so. I'm going to call this next section because I just we'll move on because there's nothing else to say about Uncharted because we'll just talk about it in the next episode.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll come up.
This is going to be the bad boys corner, I think. This is a whole bunch of bad boys news. Now, the first thing read... Bad boys. The first thing I read, which I read this years ago and I completely forgot, but Will Smith reiterated this. The original casting for the first Bad Boys back in 1985 was Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. Could you see that combo? Because they have actually been in a movie together. They were in a movie around the same time. Called Welcome to Paradise.
If it was probably more of a comedy, then yes. But
I think
if it was something like... Probably something like I won't say super bad sort of comedy, but I'd imagine it would be a very grown-up sort of comedy, just called Bad Boys.
I can't remember who the other person is. My mind's drawn blank on the movie. But yeah, Welcome to Paradise came around the same time, and it's the two of them and someone else, and they're bumbling criminals, I think. And not a great movie. Let's be honest. But anyway, they weren't the only famous people that were supposed to be involved with the franchise that people didn't know. It also came out that recently that before they were well known, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg did some uncredited rewrites on the Bad Boys 2 script to kind of punch up the jokes. And they did this because Judd Apatow had been approached to do it. And I think he was a bit busy, so he said, "Oh, these guys are funny, and I know them from Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
They can do some good writing. Give them a shot and see what they come up with." And so it's all uncredited, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, this just came out, so that was quite a surprise as well.
Probably been like Seth Rogen's basement smoking weed,
having a giggle,
and just making Seth Rogen.
They did.
I can't do his laughing.
There was a couple of jokes that Seth Rogen, when this came out again, Seth Rogen confirmed it on Twitter, and he made a reference to one. I can't remember what it was. One particular joke that he definitely said that was one of ours. And this another one, maybe there was a couple of them he mentioned that were definitely theirs in the movie. So Michael Bay actually appears in the most recent Bad Boys, and so if you've seen it, you should bloody well notice it because it's the most Michael Bayest of Bay shots because he directed it himself too.
Yeah.
So
it's explosions.
No, it's he's playing a DJ.
Oh,
and it does the parallax turn where so it's him in a shot that he's designed. That's one of his kind of iconic style shots.
That makes sense.
And so the directors kind of talked about this and that he was actually really on board and he wanted to say, look, I want to give this a kind of a blessing. If it's yay or nay, and when he was happy, they said, "Do you want to be in the movie?" And they gave him a couple of options. They thought a couple of things that he might want to do, including getting killed by something, and another one. But he decided to do the DJ bit. But the directors made a very pertinent comment, which was that it'd be the sort of thing that film students will love to pick apart because it's very meta. You've got Michael Bay in a movie franchise that kicked his career off basically, directing a shot that is very much invoking his style that he is in. Yeah, it's a very very weird concept. So yeah,
I can imagine that. We should go to South Seas and go see how many people have seen it and go, God, study this,
or anywhere else. But the box office has been pretty good, and it's already looking like they're going to bring them back for another film. Which, as someone pointed out to me the other day, they've already burnt the really good title they could have for the fourth one because it was Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah,
but they should have said that one for the fourth one if they'd thought about it.
Yeah, well, they should have called this one like Bad Boys Tokyo Drift or something. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, then the second one should have been what? Too bad,
two boys. I don't know. Who knows?
Oh God.
Well, it could just be Bad 4.
But the next one would just be no, it can't because you've got no. It was the Fast and the Furious, and it just became Fast and Furious. There's no way to simplify Bad Boys any more than Bad Boys. I'm digressing way too much.
We're digressing. Yeah, so we'll move on to something else here. Yeah, it'd be Boys 5, yeah. Speaking of Bad Boys, this is the final news of Bad Boys. There's a National Treasure 3 rumoured to be happening again with Nicolas Cage, and the Bad Boys for Life, that's where it comes in, screenwriter is apparently penning the script. Now, do we need another Nicolas Cage, National Treasure.
I think there's a big demand for it. Yeah. I don't care, but I think there's a lot of people who love those films.
Yeah, I won't say I love them, but I enjoyed them.
They're enjoying them.
They're entertaining. And when I first saw them, it kind of got me thinking, shit, what if these are actually real? Like, what if the US government is hiding all these things? Are they actually telling us this?
It wouldn't surprise me at all, would it?
I mean, it's because the first one deals with like the stonemasons and all that, and that's a big secretive guild. So.
They could twist it on the current presidency. And
exactly,
you know.
Who knows?
A very pertinent conversation to have.
Yeah.
Speaking of people scripting long-delayed sequels, Kevin Smith is working again on a Mallrats sequel, this time called Twilight of the Mallrats, and of course he's also working on Clerks 3, which we talked about in the last proper episode. I don't know if you've just seen the news as well. Shannon Doherty's just come out saying that her cancer has not gone for full remission and she's facing stage 4 cancer.
Oh wow, I didn't even know she had cancer.
Yeah, it was back in 2015, breast cancer. So stage 4 is pretty serious, obviously. So yeah, that's going to be interesting because if he wants to do this and he wants her to be in it, she's not going to be, in a shape to do it. So that's definitely going to change.
I wonder if he has to get like his gear out now and potentially preempt film.
Who knows? That's not a good thing. I mean, she could go into remission again.
To it,
but that's not a. It's an unfortunate bit of news to go with it. So unfortunately, App's title may be a little bit too close to the nose. Another sequel that gestating potential sequel was another Evil Dead one by Sam Raimi. Obviously, there was the rebooted kind of quasi reboot because Ash still turns up at the end, which was so weird. And the post-credit or kind of pre-credits. But of course, Bruce Campbell said he doesn't want to do any more Evil Dead, so it's got to be again in some form. But Sam Raimi's very keen. He wants to do it with or without Bruce, but he'd rather do it with him, obviously.
Yeah.
So if he could coax him out
the face of the franchise.
He can coax him out to revisit the role once more. He will do it, but I guess we'll see. It's I'm keen. I still haven't watched all of the episodes of the TV series, but it did really well, but then it got cancelled. So, just like a lot of things.
Stars.
Good work, Stars.
Put a lot of people in West Auckland out of business, out of a job.
Probably just working on Mulan or now Lord of the Rings.
Shh, not allowed to talk about that.
Yes, sorry.
It's a secret.
That production out west that nobody knows is just some sort of big international production. Local sports team and a cultural group.
So, you bastard.
Had to be done.
There's a new Saw sequel, which we've talked about previously, which is it being written or directed by Chris Rock?
I think it was written.
I can't
remember,
he's
in it. And Sam Jackson. We talked about this.
That's right, yeah.
I said Danny Glover's back.
Yeah, because I
talked about
when it first got... the news came out. I think we talked about Chris Rock. Yes, that Chris Rock, and then a couple of episodes ago, we talked about how Sam Jackson's now going to be in it.
Supposed title is Spiral from the Book of Saw. This has been somewhat confirmed because somebody's seen the details from a marketing thing, and then somebody else confirmed that they've seen a teaser trailer for it that hasn't come out yet. But the working title was originally called The Organ Donor, so we'll see if that
kind of makes a lot of sense.
It could be just that, like working title. Sometimes it's very blatantly related. Sometimes they're just jokey terms. So,
and I mean, if it's going to be called Spiral, I mean that would take into account like the design of Billy the puppet.
Yeah,
he's got the spirals on his cheeks.
I like the idea that from the Book of Saw makes it sound like there's a cult surrounding Jigsaw.
It sounds like it could be actually.
It's very interesting. We'll find out soon because obviously if the gnomes come out and this stuff, it's probably due for the Halloween this year.
Yeah.
And we'll probably start getting teasers and trailers in the coming months.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's also, they announced on Twitter that planning is underway for the Edge of Tomorrow sequel, or Live, Die, Repeat, depending on which title you...
Yeah.
The tweet is just literally a bunch of whiteboards with like scrawls, but they blurred it all out so you can't see what the plot is, except for like the names of characters and situations from the original film.
Yeah.
And obviously it ties back into that first film, so it'll be very interesting to see the outcome. Unfortunately, Bill Paxton is no longer with us, so that'll be a very interesting change of situation for that. They can't really bring his character back in, which is the only rule. But I'm sure they'll figure out how to get around that somehow. Maybe there'll be a reuse of some of the footage he shot from the first film.
Yeah, if they've got any.
They'll
do a Carrie Fisher.
Well, not even just that, but they can reuse the stuff that's supposed to be the same that he shot already, considering you get the ability to loop stuff. So that'll be an interesting way to kind of bring him back into the film somehow. If his family are along with the blessing
with the idea,
which I'm sure they will. But it'll be interesting to see. I suspect it'll still be a couple of years away, and Tom Cruise has always got a backlog of stuff to do, including 2 more Mission Impossible. So
they're both filming here. in the next year or so.
Are they filming here?
Aren't they? I thought they were.
Well, they filmed a bit of the last one here.
I thought they were at least filming.
No, I haven't heard this.
Oh, okay. I must be
They
smoking something.
I don't know. They filmed a little bit of the last one here. I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly, though, if they enjoyed working here, I wouldn't be surprised if they came back to do something different, because they used Central Targo and the Alps as was it Afghanistan or whatever it is at the end of the movie. So it was
and just as a little side note, he apparently was in Queenstown like about a week ago. He got spotted on a private jet in Queenstown, but the photos from too far away, it could be Tom Cruise, but it could not be.
Maybe they are coming back. Maybe it was a bit of
I don't know.
A bit of a spot around.
It could have been a
location.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
And because he's quite heavily involved in the production.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sorry. We'll move on, because we're rambling now about nonsense.
We'll come back to Mission Impossible anyway. We've got some more to talk about later.
Now, you've brought up to me and Anne about A Little Shop of Horrors remake with Taron Egerton and Scarlett Johansson.
I never heard of this until like literally last week, and I was like, ugh. I was like, firstly, I'm a big fan of the Frank Oz film.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect film as it is, and I think Rick Moranis plays that role perfectly as well. I can see them being cast in that, but I don't think it's a good casting. Yeah. You were much more positive. I think Anne was much like I was.
See, because I think Taron Egerton, he's come off the back of Rocket Man, which had great success, and he had Elton John's blessing to sing the songs himself instead of lip syncing, and he did a hell of a good job in my opinion. But I've never heard Scarlett Johansson sing, so
she can sing. I
don't know what it would be like.
She sings in a few movies, but sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's all right.
She has sung in a few movies, but I can't see her doing the kind of Audrey Belters and all that sort of stuff. It would be a very different take, and then you're worrying into that territory like we've talked about with Lion King when they turned the Scar's song into basically a spoken word thing. How will it change the impact of those songs?
Yeah, and I kind of feel as though that the Audrey too, like when it's small enough, it could potentially be a puppet, but when it gets big enough, it'll probably be a big CG
They're going to
monster.
go for CG, yeah.
And it'll just take it away from the whole thing.
And if they do the ending of the movie, or the original movie ending / original performance ending, all the ones where the plants take over, that'll turn into a giant spectacle of like worldwide carnage of CG plants. Yeah. Probably. Anyway.
No doubt. We'll move on. So Paramount are looking at rebooting the Transformers films, but will it continue with Bumblebee? Now, I think we've talked about this, it was about halfway through last year when Bumblebee came out.
God, it was right. No, it was near the start.
Near the start?
Because Bumblebee came out over a year ago.
See. That's how shocking my memory is.
But it's one of those things, because Bumblebee there's some retcons in there, to do with when the Autobots arrive and all that sort of stuff. And it was such a well-received film that felt more in tune with the original cartoon franchise.
And what most people would have grown up with.
Yeah, that it would be a good launch pad to continue a new series based off the back of that and continue it onwards. I think it would be a smart move. So I would like to see it. I like Bumblebee, but it didn't do as well at the box office, but I think it was because it was poisoned quite a lot by the previous Transformer movie.
Yeah, so a lot of people
liked.
Yeah, I think that's the only downside, but we could wait and see. But they've at least got... they've said there's going to be 2 coming. One of them's an untitled name, but one of them's going to be a live-action Beast Wars, which I'm kind of conflicted about, because when I grew up, I think I'd watched reruns of the original Generation 1 series, but for me, the main series I watched was Beast Wars.
I think that's a lot of kids. You're not that much into the movie, but enough of the difference that...
Yeah, enough of that half generation where, to me, I think I didn't see all of the original G1 until I was at least 13 or 14. When I bought the DVD.
Yeah, but whereas you'd seen Beast Wars earlier, which is the same, because I think there's a generation of being very much, it's like kids now being very much attracted to like, oh, the nice new CG series.
Yeah.
Same reason why, I liked Reboot. It's the same company that made Beast Wars, and I watched Reboot first, then Beast Wars. So I did watch that too.
Yeah.
But for me, it was not like Generation 1, because that was what I'd grown up enjoying. I watched Transformers and G.I. Joe and He-Man, all this stuff, the classic Saturday morning cartoons, when I was a kid. And there's only a separation of about 5 years or so between us, but it's like enough to make that big difference that my Saturday morning cartoons were different 5 years
from
earlier
mine.
and afternoons, obviously, after school, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I think most people will be conflicted, but they'll be interested to see what comes out of it. It'd be interesting. I think it'll be in that same wheelhouse. They're not going to aesthetically change the design of transformation massively. I think like the robots are going to look like the robots that we expect from the newer movies.
Yeah.
And
then they'll just look like the beasts, but they'll probably look sort of more realistic, like Optimus Primal, because he's an ape. He'll probably have like sort of flowing hair, because CG hair these days is just so good that, you know, like he'd be running or something and his hair would just be freaking moving about. Crazy. Oh,
we digress.
Yeah, we digress.
Blumhouse is thinking about making a new version of the thing. That's the rumour going around, but based off the original story. And also, there's an expanded version of the story that's been found recently, I think in the last year or so, and they're thinking about incorporating elements that haven't been seen in any other version. It'd be interesting to see another version. I wasn't completely against the prequel / almost remake of the original, the 2013 one. It was the only thing that was sad about it was where they replaced a lot of the practical effects they tried to do with CG. They did do with CG. And it kind of made the film slightly worse, but the movie wasn't bad.
I've seen kind of some of the behind the scenes of that, and the practical effects that I did see
were pretty cool,
pretty good.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the remake reboot prequel, but I've seen reference of what's in it. And I was like, the practical's so much better.
It is so much better than what they replaced it. It was a silly idea. It would have been very interesting if the studio just went, all right, we made a mistake and re-released it as an extra special cut with the original effects mostly in, and then any time that they didn't have the shot, it's going to be CG, just leave your CG shot in. Anyway, digressing again, but Blumhouse, it'd be very interesting to see their take. They've had this very successful run of, obviously, original movies, but they've also been able to take on kind of twisted ideas of other IPs. Obviously, the Fantasy Island upcoming is a perfect example of that. The Invisible Man, all that sort of stuff, that they're kind of teaming up with more, I'm going to say mainstream studios, but larger studios with their properties, and being able to put a twist on it. Obviously, their working relationship with Universal means that maybe this is a good thing, because Universal obviously released the original thing, so they can kind of push for it, knowing that they can do it on the back of the original and have it either its own thing, or if they want to make it part of the same thing, they can still do that as well. It'd be very interesting to see what they come up with, but yeah, it'd be worth seeing.
Now, here's something that I think we're probably getting too old for, but
I think everyone's getting too old for this.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon 5, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, and the original director are returning.
Richard Donner,
thank you.
That's right.
Now, question: are they too old for this shit?
I think they were too old for it the last time, and that was 24 years ago, and 23 years ago, 97.
Yeah.
Very young Jet Li, or youngish Jet Li, who barely is recognisable by comparison to that time now. Why? Why? They had the TV series with
like Damon Wayans.
They didn't do very well, and they ended up replacing cast member at one point because of the thing. No, just let it be. 4 is enough. Don't need a fifth one.
3 was probably enough.
3 was probably enough, but the fourth one wasn't bad. It just wasn't great either. But like, it's done. Like, we don't do. How much more? They're both retired by now. Like clearly, if you were actually the ages they would be well retired by now in their profession. Like,
either that, or they'd be sergeant at a desk or something.
No, you'd be retired even at that point. You would have gone way past that point now. You wouldn't be working. They're both what, in their late 60s, early 70s now.
Yeah, fair enough.
You wouldn't be working at a police as a police officer at any level. You know. Just they'll have to have some reason to bring them back into the fold. It'll probably, knowing these Lego sequels will have some connection to one of the earlier films, bringing back some twist like on a
child of something, or something.
Yeah, or something to do with a bad guy or whatever. Yeah,
it's a bit like a Hans Gruber sort of a twist or something.
Yeah, but like more overt these days. Like back then, like having that thing in Die Hard with a Vengeance was just a nice little twist on what was happening, why it was personal. It made that it ramped up a little bit of stakes, but it was only a punchline to the events that the guy was already a maniacal idiot, crazy psycho on his own accord, and this was just like the little twist. The newer films tend to not just do it; they make it very overt and have to have very blatant connections. So it'll probably be something silly like that. Yeah. Clearly not the only person who's too old for the shit is Stallone.
No, I was about to say that myself.
Yeah.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Because he's decided that after a 5-year absence, it's time to go for another round of Expendables.
come on, you've had your Rambo, you've had your Rocky, you've got your Creeds. You really need this? I think not.
Yeah, he's keeping himself in bank. That's basically it. I mean, there was a rumor there was a discussion for a while they were going to do a female version spin-off for a while, the Expendables.
Okay. Isn't Ronda Rousey in the last one?
Yeah, this is part of the idea, but it didn't happen. But so back to the well, I guess.
Yep. And
then we'll get another Rambo.
That's them clawing at the bottom. It's not some random ASMR.
They'll, yeah. God, I don't know. I just want to move on. Let's move on.
Yeah. Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins cast and logo have been announced. It's got Henry Golding and is it Iko
Uwais?
Sorry,
Uwais.
Okay. Sorry if we butchered that.
No, I think it's Uwais. He's the guy from The Raid, and obviously Henry Golding is like in almost everything right now.
He's like the it guy.
He's that guy. It's interesting. He's a character that you don't see his face because it's in a mask, and he doesn't speak. So we get a charismatic, charming Asian actor to play the role.
You're probably never going to see his face or hear him talk.
Is this going to be like going to connect it to Stallone? Is this going to be like a Stallone Dread, where anytime he has the chance, he's going to take his mask off because the audience wants to stab the studio wants to sell his face to the audience? Because other than I have no problems with the casting. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's so funny to put someone like that and then just end up covering their face and not have them speak for most of the movie.
Here's what I want to know, because has it been announced that he's actually going to be the body of Snake Eyes, or is he just going to be like the voice or something?
I'm pretty sure he's been cast as the person.
Okay,
but it's an origin story, so I assume we're going to find out some information about him, and so it's not going to be in this thing all the time, at least for the whole duration of the film. Obviously, it's going to be part of it. But they haven't said anything. They literally haven't said what the movie's about.
It's probably going to be like the last 10 minutes he's going to Snake Eyes up.
Who knows? It could be more longer than that, but we'll find out. It'll be interesting. It was scheduled to sort of be out this year, and the filming's obviously starting soon if they're announcing the details, but whether or not it's out this year or next year hasn't been officially announced properly. It was last announced that it was going to be out this year at the end of the year. So we'll see. We'll stay tuned. Yeah.
So this is something that probably should have been just before Snake Eyes about people who are getting too old for shit. Jackass 4 is coming next year in 2021.
Yeah, good time. I didn't see that one when I was putting this list together.
I see 1 and 2... to me were good because that was at the time where they were at their peak.
3 was good too. I actually really enjoyed 3.
I didn't.
Why didn't you? I did. 3 wasn't as gross out, but I kind of liked the juxtaposition because they weren't quite too old, but they knew they were getting past their prime, which was kind of funny. Like they make jokes about it, and like even I think Bam at one point says, "If I'm still doing this shit, like when I'm like 70, you know." Like, they'd already made jokes about their movies, and then literally here we are by 2011, which was 10 years after the series. And 10 years seemed like a good run. And here we are. It's going to be another 10 years after that. More, yeah. And oh my God, it's going to be horrendous.
I don't know. Maybe I need to sit down and watch them all again.
I think the third one, and the 3D element was a really good idea too. I think they played really well into that. But I think that was kind of it.
Especially with the high five.
Yeah, exactly. I think that should have been it. I think... Obviously, this just reeks of money desperation right there. Yeah. And obviously, Paramount just going, yeah, cool. It didn't cost us that much to hire these guys to do stupid stuff. We just paid them a little bit more than last time. Who cares if they kill themselves? You know, they're getting old anyway.
Yeah.
Someone's
going to break a hip. Yeah.
He's probably making these comments. Yeah. Oh, my God. Speaking of people trying to grab money from people very easily, there was a woman that was the inspiration for Jennifer Lopez's character in Hustlers. It came out last year. Great movie. Do see it if you get a chance. But she's suing the film's producers for basically defamation. She's saying that the way that her character is portrayed, it's very thinly veiled. The names have changed, all this stuff. It's thinly veiled because if you read the article or know anything about it, you know who this person would be. Has basically ruined her life. I mean, people always throw these lawsuits around what to expect.
It's always the way.
And, you know, I'm sure there's some truth to it on some level. If you're that person and the film is made about you and it's not very particularly positive about your exploits, of course people are going to comment on it, you know, that's just the simple truth of it. So there's probably a little nugget of truth in there, but whether or not it's actually having the sort of impact that she's claiming, I mean, it's sad, isn't it? It's a good way to make extra money for nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Get a lawyer and do that, you know, but then you risk not making anything at all. Which is a bit like Cats.
Yeah. Cats is currently in the litter box.
It's a turd.
To put it nicely. It's become a complete bomb. I think as anyone who saw the first trailer probably would have predicted.
Yeah. I had that free ticket. I'm going to caveat the story. I had a free ticket and decided not to go. I gave it to our flatmates, Nicole and Sophie, and they went and saw it, and they were like, "Yeah, that was an interesting experience." They weren't exactly enamored either. So, people, it's going to become a cult film. Let's be honest. It's going to become a cult film.
Possibly will. Yeah.
We've got it already is. It's the literal thing is that people like the guys that do the podcast where they watch the same movie every week for a year.
Yeah.
They've already done a week of seeing Cats every day.
Oh my
God. The Avondale Hollywood Cinema here is doing like a catnip screening. It's like a late night screening for just torture. Like it's going to become one of those cult films that in future years people will watch because of the sheer absurdity of it.
Okay.
And it'll become. I will guarantee it within 10 years we'll be talking about this. It's like remember that time they made that weird Cats film and how everyone watches it because it's like so surreally odd that it's good. It's kind of good, and it's like how bad it is. It's definitely becoming one of those films.
If that's the case, I probably still won't see it.
No, I'm not exactly in any rush, but maybe I'll see it eventually. But it's interesting. On top of that, we were talking about the Oscars before. The studio smartly removed it from the for your consideration page that they put forward for it. And surprisingly, not nominated for any Oscars.
If that stayed up and it like won anything, I would be shocked.
Yeah. I suspect the Razzies are usually the day before.
Yeah.
Big winner at the Razzies. That's
sure. It's going to be a fucking
shoe-in walk the most of the categories. Cats.
It's going to be the cat amongst the pigeons at the Razzies.
Jesus.
We'll move on to slight differences here. We'll move on to what would be our Fox area.
It's kind of Fox Disney, I guess.
Yeah, Fox Disney area. It's come out recently that Hank Azaria is no longer going to be voicing Apu in The Simpsons.
Yeah, I'm guessing they got to the end of the most recent season as far as voice recording went, the controversy is just too much. I mean, they made fun of it, basically, in the controversy surrounding that documentary that came out. Azaria himself had said, like, I'm indifferent to the idea if they want to recast it or do something that I don't mind. It's not important to me to hold on to it. I'm not. So
it's not like his only voice that he needs this job.
Exactly. And even if it was, you'd think after that many years, you'd just be like,
I've earned my however many millions,
and he's still going to get residuals for all the years he has done it anyway. So I don't know. I think we're at this weird point where I think Disney's going to keep The Simpsons going for as long as it can at this point, and not in a like just because kind of way, but more because it's still is watched by a lot of people. It still makes money, and in syndication, that's more episodes means more money. And if Disney goes, well, it's such an evergreen for us in the future, because even when it does end, it's gonna. Yeah, I know I made that joke. Damn it, you threw me off. I was trying to make that joke, and then you threw me off for saying it.
I'm sorry, it just caught me off guard, so I had to giggle. I'll just leave it on the terrace.
The thing is, it will continue to make money because it just will. The more episodes they got, it's obviously better, and yet it doesn't matter when it finishes at this point.
No.
And if they can still pay all the cast and it still basically pays for itself, why wouldn't you for now?
Yeah.
At the very least?
Well, I mean, we're still expecting, 3 movies, 4 movies or something?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Because they're contracted for X amount of seasons,
well, they're
however many they go.
They've still got another season's contracted for apparently.
But I mean, I think they're initially contracted for 5 movies or something, aren't they?
I can't remember. Something crazy like that, 4 or 5 movies. Yeah. They did the first movie like something like 8, no, it was like... I can't remember, it was like 15 years before they even made the movie, I think it was. Something like that. It's crazy. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of things being killed, Disney is killing 20th Century Fox.
I'm just going to interrupt here. We didn't confirm that they're killing Apu. Well, no,
but...
they might recast. They're probably
not killing him, but...
That's right.
Do you want to do this next segue? No. Do you want to do this?
I'm just going to tell the story. It isn't about a segue at this point. Literally, I just wanted to point people out that they've not confirmed what they're doing with Apu. I just thought that it was funny that you were just like, I'm going to segue this about killing stuff. I'm like, they didn't kill Apu.
I can't think of anything else. Do you want to cut this and you redo it?
I'm not going to cut it. This is all going in there.
You do it then.
So Disney's decided that the Fox brand is tarnished, basically, and so they're killing the Fox part of the brand. And so Fox is now going to become 20th Century Studios and then 20th Century Fox. And Fox Searchlight is going to become Searchlight Pictures. Mm-hmm. And they've released new logos and everything, and it'll be, I think it's from this month moving forward, the end of this month. Moving forward, everything will be continued to be rebranded. One of the things they could potentially rebrand, Ryan, is something that you are very much a fan of.
Yeah, so the Fox president is open to a Firefly revival. It's the Joss Whedon Space Western TV series,
Space Western.
Which pretty much got, apart from Buffy, got Joss Whedon on the map.
And which, of course, they followed up with a film.
Yeah, with a film, Serenity as well.
Have they said what this follow-up would be?
There's no details at this point.
You'd think it would be like a short-form series, like a short...
Potentially, well, I mean, Firefly was 12 episodes as it was.
Yeah, so another season.
It could be like maybe 6 episodes, because, I mean, I don't know what most of the other actors are doing, but Nathan Fillion's currently on The Rookie. So it depends on if it fits in with his schedule with that, or
it would have to be between
even if it's going to be like a prequel series or a sequel series, depending on where they want to set it. I've got no idea.
But you'd be keen?
Any details? Yeah, I'd probably give it a watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Firefly and Serenity to an extent is one of those TV series and movies which has actually got a mass cult following, and like I don't think a lot of people saw it when it first aired, but when it came to DVD, everybody sort of went out and watched it. And oh my god,
I would definitely agree with that.
And I think that's probably why I enjoy Mandalorian quite a bit, not just because it's in Star Wars lore, but to me, Firefly is an actual space western, what Star Wars should be.
Yeah,
and that's probably why I enjoy Mandalorian.
Because it feels that
it feels very similar.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. We'll move on from Firefly to the torturous world that is the quote-unquote live action, I'm doing air quotes by the way, live action film franchise that Disney's decided to continue. So we obviously had Lion King last year, we've had Aladdin, there was The Lady and the Tramp on Disney+. The next one they've announced, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Bambi. Really?
Do we have to watch her mother die again?
In realistic animal throws, no doubt too, just because they look real now. So I think this is like on the totem of like wanted live action, very on the low. I'm amazed this is not a Disney Plus movie. It may be actually. They haven't really seen anything, but yeah.
Just to go back to what I did before, but this is my interpretation of Disney with all their movies. Just stop scraping. Like, you've got enough billions, trillions, or however many fucking money you've got. You've probably got enough to thaw out fucking Walt Disney from the bottom of Space Mountain now. You've probably got the technology. You can rebuild him.
Or at least his head.
Elion!
If anyone gets that, I'm going to be surprised.
10 points to you if you get that reference.
Another live action one that has been talked about for a while, and this is quite ironic given my original little Mulan.
Yeah, at the start, your correction.
Pinocchio. And Robert Zemeckis has been tapped to be direct. Now that's interesting because Zemeckis has been spending a lot of time in the past working on motion capture and these kind of like uncanny valley weird looking films. And he's got a very interesting career trajectory, and it almost seems poignant that he's going to do this because it seems like very much in his wheelhouse. So it kind of makes sense you would get him to do it. But again, it's another remake that I'm like...
Here's the thing, there's already been a live-action Pinocchio in the 90s. And there was a couple of other ones as well.
Because the story is... this is the Disney version.
I suppose, the character that makes sense, yeah.
There's definitely been live action, but it's again, this will be live action in the sense that the puppet's going to probably look like a puppet until he needs to look like a real boy.
I'm a real boy. Oh.
God, let's move on.
Yeah. So Home Alone 1 and 2 have been pulled from Disney Plus in the USA, but for some reason 3 and 4 still exist.
And 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. So there was a 5th one?
Oh, well, no.
We forget about the 5th one.
Well, to be honest,
you should
kind of
forget about the 4th one
anything
too.
After, yeah.
Third one's okay. I'm guessing it's just a license thing. The Sandlot got put back on in the United States after it got pulled. It was only off for about a month, which is kind of interesting because there's supposed to be another Disney Plus series, which is like a sequel to the original film, apparently, or films. I don't know. I'll figure out how that works later. So I think it's just to do with rights and what things are available on certain platforms and certain agreements. They might have had like a little window where they went, right, it's Christmas, we can chuck it up, and then like we have to take it off.
Yeah, at a certain date or something.
Until the license lapses with our other agreements, and then we can put it back on.
It'd be like for how long you can leave a Christmas tree up for after Christmas.
Exactly. And obviously it's regional specific, because if you go on Disney Plus here, I think they're still on.
Yeah, we've still got it.
Because they're not on any other platform. You're just going to see that, and the Americans are going to suffer the most. I think maybe then also the British, because they've obviously got all these different platforms. Disney Plus still hasn't launched in the UK. I think it comes out in March.
Yeah.
So
it has, but it hasn't. It torrents.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what
I'm sure
meaning,
people have been illegally downloading The Mandalorian because they can't wait 6 months to see that.
Oh, yeah.
You're perfectly right. But yeah, officially it launches in March.
Yeah, officially, yeah.
Another long gestating idea that was rumoured and then confirmed was a Mighty Ducks series for Disney as well. Yep. And the rumour was that Emilio Estevez was going to return as his...
Coach Bombay.
Coach Bombay, that's right. Gordon Bombay. And that's been confirmed, which will be interesting. Unfortunately, followed up literally the day after by the news that one of the previous main cast members from the original series was...
I can't remember the actor's name, but it was Goldberg.
Goldberg was arrested for, I
think drug possession.
No, well, that was a drug possession. I think he was assault and... I think it was like minor theft, but he was stealing so he could pawn the stuff for drugs.
Yeah.
He looks unrecognizable in those mugshots. I couldn't believe it. When someone showed me the picture, I was like, that's not the same guy at all. Like, you can't even tell it's the same guy. Kids stay off drugs.
Yeah. It's kind of what happens. Like, it's one of those sad but true moments in time where child actors just, don't really become an actor after...
But some of them
sort of make it big as such.
Some of them obviously go off and do have other careers, but some of them don't. But I think it's just like anyone. You can don't have to be a child actor, and you can fall into the trap of being so desperate for drugs that you have to start stealing stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, there's that old adage about child actors and all that sort of stuff. It obviously makes this somewhat poignant. But anyway, we're diverting from the topic, which is, are you interested in Mighty Ducks Disney Plus series? A new generation of ducks.
I don't know. Maybe. I'd probably watch it to see what it's like. But I don't know. They'd probably call on like cameos of like some of the other cast.
I think so too.
I'd say the likes of, because I think Danny Tamborelli's still doing like some voice actor stuff here and there. I think Kenan Thompson, he's still on SNL for like the 20th season or whatever. Now it's like 13th, 14th season or whatever. But
you can get Pacey back.
Yeah, you can get a lot of people back, I'm sure. You probably get the Bash Brothers.
Yeah. I can't believe I just referred to him as that. Oh my god. Let's move on. One last Disney aside thing, and we're kind of getting more towards... I wanted to put this in the Marvel thing, but I thought this was too poignant coming up to the next thing we're going to talk about after, so I'll talk about this now. And it kind of is also adjacent to Disney, so I thought this was kind of a nice little segue between the two. God, I'm really selling this well, aren't I? So Martin Scorsese's daughter, Francesca, wrapped all of his Christmas gifts in Marvel-themed wrapping paper because of his comments about cinema.
I just have to appreciate that.
It was very good.
That's gold.
It was genius. I'd love to know if they've had their meeting at Disney about, when they were supposed to ring him in and have this chat about cinema. Because it's very important to Disney about the morality about cinema. Well, being overly serious there. But yeah, I thought it was great. What was not so great from Martin Scorsese, it was a fucking terrible Super Bowl commercial that he appeared in with Jonah Hill. I don't think you've seen this.
No, I haven't seen this.
Don't watch it. I just read the comments. This is a horrible ad. You must see it. Basically,
that's going to sell it to me.
For some real random reason, Martin Scorsese's at a party by himself, but he's like in a party, but he's just standing in the middle of the room, and like people are having fun, and he's kind of just like, he's there, and then he's like, oh, where's my pal Jonah? Like, he's not actually saying this, but he's obviously thinking it, and then he gets his phone out and flicks Jonah a message like, hey man, how far away are you? And then Jonah like is sitting on his couch at home just like chilling watching TV or something, and then he's just like, what? He's like, the parties, you're supposed to be here at 9. And he's like, and then he starts replying, but he can't think of what to reply, and all Scorsese's seeing is the 3 dots, and then it's this random montage of like 3 dot things, And then all of a sudden it cuts to Jonah Hill and he's in a convenience store and he's buying Coca-Cola Energy. Like it's just full of Coca-Cola Energy. He's like pulls one out and he doesn't even pay for it. He just cracks it open and drinks it on the spot because this is what you do in these commercials.
Shoplifter.
And then he texts him as he's just walking out, still drinking it, going, "I'm on my way." And then there's a coda scene of the two of them at the party, like going, "Oh yeah, awesome to see you." Horrible ad. Like who thought of that?
Sound that good?
Who thought of that ad? Who managed to convince both of them to do that ad? I mean, Jonah Hill, I can understand. He's like, I'll do anything with Scorsese.
Yeah.
Scorsese's an I'm in. but Scorsese, you know better than this. And then you complain about cinema, and then you make shitty ads. Oh my God, I'm so pissed off. Of course, it wasn't the only shitty ad that had pop culture references. But we'll get back to that in a second, because I wanted to talk about Shakira.
All right, her hips don't lie. I know that much.
Did you see the Super Bowl halftime show?
I did not. Well, not yet, anyway.
Okay.
I saw highlights, but I never saw the whole thing.
I saw this going around the internet yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's just ridiculous, until I saw her side by side. Shakira's costume at the Super Bowl is her character from Zootopia.
Oh. I did not know that.
Yeah, so she wore basically the same styled... It wasn't exactly the same, but it was a sort of cropped top with a dress with like kind of tassels in the same colour, same style of boots, and so for that she doesn't have horns growing out of her head because that's what her character is. Her hair is kind of in that crimped kind of blondish style. And the internet just went nuts over it. And no official comment was made, nothing, just people were like, it's kind of funny, she looks kind of like a character in that movie. So yeah, that was an interesting little aside. Yeah.
Wow. All right, I might have to look that up now.
Yeah. We're going back to commercials though.
Yep.
There was a bunch of like really pop culture-y, like this year, a lot of people made these comments that a lot of the Super Bowl commercials, because obviously it's a big deal over there, they don't have to really make a lot of sense. Like they're really selling more on the idea of things that you already know or nostalgia, and I was hoping you connect the dots.
Yeah.
So we got, and I'm just making a few examples here. There was a Walmart pop culture ad which came out early, and there's an extended cut. Had everything from Star Wars to Lego to Bill and Ted to what else was in there? Like I can't even remember what else.
It's more just Bill.
Well, it was just Bill, but you know what I mean. It was Bill and Ted. But yes, it was. There was young Bill and old Bill, which was kind of cool actually. I did like that. Yeah, it was weird. It reminded me of that Radio Shack commercial from a few years ago.
It's definitely very reminiscent of the Radio Shack.
With the 80s.
The 80s are back.
Yeah. Then Radio Shack went out of business, so you know.
Yeah.
It was really back.
I just hope Walmart doesn't go out of business. Because, I mean, Toys R Us is gone and Walmart's probably the next big thing.
I beg everyone to see the Bryan Cranston ad, though. The Mountain Dew one.
Yeah, I saw that. That was good.
It's fucking weird, but very good. It's basically Shining with Bryan Cranston. But that shot at the end with him playing the twins was very, like, what?
Yeah, it was very... Well, I don't know if he's playing the twins. I think it's just the twins from the original movie, and they've just superimposed his face.
I'm not sure about that, because obviously there's bits where they've just reshot, like they've made a fake set and reshot. So I don't know, it might be the case. It's still very weird, regardless. Yeah. Okay, I definitely saw that. There was an Audi e-tron commercial with Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones singing "Let It Go," which is very...
What?
Yeah, I know. It's like... Let's mash these things together. You know Game of Thrones, and you know Frozen, and you know Audi. So you put these things together. It's like someone just like it was at the advertising agency, and it's like the joke that Family Guy with the and on South Park where they pull the random non sequiturs out. Is it the dolphins or whatever it is? It's like that, but with like an ad. So it's just like, here's our product, Audi. Here's a celebrity, Maisie Williams. Here's a famous song, "Let It Go" from Frozen. Let's combine these things into a commercial. I was like, yeah, okay. Interesting. The one that I was most excited about, though...
And I think this came out, just the day before or hours before?
Hours beforehand, and they put it online, but then it was obviously got during the Super Bowl. And it came together last minute. I read the behind the scenes of this. It was actually an amazing story. Was Bill Murray doing an ad for Jeep, but basically treating it like a sequel to Groundhog Day, which was meta because it came out on Groundhog Day. Yeah. Because the 2nd of February was Groundhog Day. And they literally got him, they got his brother, they got Stephen Tobolowsky, His brother played the mayor, and they've got the groundhog. It was hilarious. I thought it was great. I actually really thought it was a clever idea, and they literally came up with it very late, like at the end of last year. The guy who came up with the ad came up with it, had no idea if it was going to work. Basically, tried to get in touch with Bill Murray, couldn't find a way. Knew some people that knew him. Basically, leaned on those connections, saying, "Hey, look, if you can get this idea to Bill, we'd really like to do it." Surprisingly, for all the jokes, Bill Murray's actually never done a television commercial. He's never actually done one.
Wow.
This is the first one he's ever done, which is kind of funny because his character in Lost in Translation is like there in Japan doing commercials for whiskey and stuff like that. But he's actually never done a commercial until this one. And it's amazing that a film that was a troubled production, like for Bill Murray, like the original film, I don't know what his memories are of that, to actually come back and go back to the same location they filmed it at the same place, having people that he knows from the movie come along and do it and last, like they were shooting it like a week before the commercial aired.
Wow.
On the
That's really sudden.
26th of January or something. Wow. So it came together very fast, but it's really funny. I thought it was legitimately funny. Like, so the idea is that he wakes up and he's not again, kind of depressed about it, and then when he's at his usual place, he sees this new Jeep, which is new.
Yeah, he goes, "Oh, that's different,"
and so he decides to take it for a spin. And he loves it so much, he gets excited about it, getting up every day and being able to take it for a drive, which I think is a hilarious concept for an ad.
And then, of course, like in the movie, he steals the groundhog, and then he actually drives with the groundhog
around, which is hilarious. I think the non sequiturs. They obviously shot a bunch of stuff with him just doing weird stuff with the groundhog and just threw bits of it in there.
Yeah,
like for some reason it ends with him on skis and he's. Doesn't make any sense, but it was hilarious.
Maybe you never learned to ski in the first cycle.
Maybe there's a new extended cut of at some point of some of the other stuff they might have shot. Bill Murray's other thing that came out the same week was a interview that was done with him on the set of Ghostbusters, and he was amazingly positive about the whole experience. Like, he was just super excited about the script. He was super excited to be there. The reporter was like, kind of downplayed the idea that notoriously he's been, not very keen about coming back to the sequel a little bit when talking to him, but obviously in the article kind of did mention this, and yet he said his attitude towards it couldn't have been any different. Like, he was very affluent about the production, about who was in charge, about how it was going. So it's obviously was very keen to say as much, and it was a nice thing to see that it confirmed that definitely the original cast that members are still alive are going to be in this film. So we still have no idea at this point how that will fold in. They haven't obviously said or revealed anything, and I think they're going to keep. I think they should keep that close to their chest. I'd rather not see a trailer. I wouldn't mind seeing a trailer where they teased their appearance, but don't give us any clues as to why they're there, what the connection is, anything like that, because I think it will ruin something. So I'm going to try and avoid the trailers as best I can. But unfortunately, I know I'm going to end up going to see a movie and the trailer will probably play beforehand because it always happens.
Well, the only thing I can say is, as long as it's not like they've just got, I guess the original actors back just for like a 30-second cameo, like in the 2016. But it doesn't sound like that, which does sound positive for it.
I mean, Bill Murray's condition for that original 2016 one is that he wanted something better than a cameo, which is why they gave him a slightly more expanded role. So I would say he wouldn't have even considered doing this, even if it was reprising his actual character, if it was just like something that small. So that's probably, I don't think you'd be seeing him being that enthused about it. But anyway,
Rian Johnson wants to make a Knives Out sequel with Craig's Benoit Blanc character, as Daniel Craig has been very keen.
I'm just going to correct you as Benoit Blanc.
Oh, sorry.
Just because you haven't seen the movie, so
no.
Daniel Craig's really keen about revisiting it because he got asked about it. I guess it was obviously to do with the Bond stuff, and he's obviously how successful his last 6 months have been. And he said, I really enjoyed it. That whole project came together really quickly. There was an article the other day that Johnson said he literally left his vacation that he was on. He was on a holiday with his family to fly to New York. I think it was like in Hawaii or somewhere, like on a beach, and flew all the way to New York just to meet with Daniel Craig, because Daniel Craig had a very limited window of I think it was like 3 months before he had to be ready for Bond. And you got to remember that Johnson didn't even have a completed script. He had the idea, he had a script, but it hadn't been finessed.
Yeah.
And someone said he's interested, you want to meet with him, see if he wants to do it. And he literally had, I think it was like a 7 or 8 week pre-production from that moment. He went back on holiday, and then after he came back, he had like 7 or 8 weeks before the filming got too tight for him not to be able to do it. So the fact that they're really keen to come back, his character is amazing, is really, really good, and I could definitely see it like a, almost like a Poirot kind of, Agatha Christie's Poirot kind of series where you have this character and he gets embroiled in these different mysteries. It'd be very cool. So If you haven't seen Knives Out, I highly recommend it. I've recommended it to a few people at work just recently who were looking for something different, and they'd seen the trailer and went, oh yeah, maybe. And then every single person's come back saying, yeah, I actually really enjoyed it, really good. So really happy with that.
Speaking of Daniel Craig, the Bond producers have said that a coloured Bond is possible, but a female Bond is not. Now, we talked about this previously, like when it first came about, like a couple of weeks ago, between episodes. Now, I reckon if anyone was to gain the rights away from MGM to really stick it to them, I reckon a coloured female Bond.
It's not going to happen.
Really should. I know, but to show
the
diversity.
The rights aren't going to go away from MGM because MGM isn't the rights. The rights are owned by the Broccoli's, and they are part of the original signing rights. They own that in perpetuity, and they can go with whatever studio they want. So it's not to do with a studio system or how it's produced. And the other part of it is that they pointed Barbara Broccoli, who's basically the face of the production now, whose father was the one that was one of the co-founders of Egon Productions that created the series when they bought the rights from the books. They've just released a movie called The Rhythm Section with Blake Lively, and they've pointed as that as saying, look, instead of us making a female Bond, let's just make other female heroes.
Yeah.
And so they point at that as an example of a film which is not doing great, but it is the idea that she has been wronged and trains to be like basically an assassin, and we create strong, interesting characters. I mean, Blake Lively went hard out in that film. She broke her hand, I think, or wrist, something like that. Wow. At one point in that film, she was it cut it or broke it? I can't remember. Smashed it. She damaged it. She smashed it. It was her hand. And so they ended up having to delay the production and ended up incorporating the damage she put in her hand into the film. So it's definitely an idea, and I personally think that's a better idea. I think it's much more interesting to see more, let's just do different characters. Like, we don't have to be beholden on waiting for another Bond film that's just going to have to wait until they do it, and then they finally decide, all right, now it's time to cast a woman in the role. Otherwise it turns into, and this is not to belie the negative backlash, but it turns into the situation where you look at it surrounding Doctor Who. Because as soon as I will guarantee you that as soon as they announce a female Bond of any ethnicity, there'll be a backlash. There'll be people going, that's not Bond. Bond's a man. Bond, blah, blah. Because they did that about Daniel Craig for having blonde hair.
Yeah, if you think like a big thing, it's like, oh, it's a blonde Bond.
If you think if people are gonna complain about a hair color thing over a Bond, what do you think they're gonna do when they change it to a woman and a woman of any ethnicity? It doesn't have to be black. It could be Asian. Could be whatever. It would be insanely problematic just because. It's not that it's their problem to have to deal with that, because they could do whatever they want with it. But you think about it as a franchise, they just go, like, it's easier for us to not have to worry about that. Let's just keep doing what we're doing there, and let's make other things that people want to see instead as well. I think it's a much simpler answer to potential problems.
Now, talking of MGM, Apple and Netflix are reportedly fighting over buying the MGM
license or the
brand.
Studio remains.
Yeah. Which includes James Bond, Rocky, Mad Max, amongst other things.
It's part of this whole thing with the movements into streaming networks and all this stuff. Obviously, they want more content. So if one of them can buy out this, they get a back catalogue of all their films and they have exclusive rights to them, and they can put them on their platform. And for franchises like Bond, like Rocky, like Mad Max, those are big deals. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which one comes out on top. They'll just throw money at it until one of them comes out on top. It's literally what will happen. It continues to throw down this diversity route where we've got so many different streaming platforms and they've all got a few things that you want to see that you end up paying for everything. Or you don't, and as we've alluded to, you end up downloading stuff.
Yeah.
And I won't be surprised, as I've said this before, and I will continue to say it, I will not be surprised over the next 5 years we continue to see a peak in piracy going on. Just because of that thing where we plateaued because Netflix had a lot of content and people were happy with that for several years, and then now we've got like 20 different streaming services and you don't know which one you want to spend all your money on. You're not going to pay for all of them, so you pay for what you want to see and you download the rest.
Yeah. You get it however you can.
We're going to talk about the secret project here in Auckland again, are we?
Yeah, we might as well. That no one knows about, but everybody knows about. So the Lord of the Rings TV series cast has been announced for the Amazon series. Now, there's no listings of who it is. It's just been announced. Like when I first saw this, I tried everywhere to find who was in it, but
they did announce. I did see the list. I didn't recognise any of the names. Apparently, if you've followed certain things, you'll know certain TV shows. I really didn't recognise. There wasn't anyone recognisable. Even when I remember when the film series was announced, I at least knew some of the actors were. But this, I wasn't aware. Am I getting old? Am I getting out of touch? Is it a bunch of new, young, hot things? I don't know. Is it just they've done a random casting call and casted appropriately based on the characters? Maybe that's it. I don't know. So we'll see. But I mean, it's not like that didn't work for Game of Thrones. Like most of the main cast in that were not well known before they were in it. They became well known because of that.
Yeah,
so
and it wasn't until like a few seasons in that they started to get well known people to come in as an odd cameo here and there.
Well, I think even in the start, there was people that were well known, but they weren't like cast in roles too much that were big because they either knew the character wasn't going to last long, they were literally stunt casting at that point, or they would reveal it as the series came on. They don't want to pre-announce it because it would spoil something. So it might be the case here, but these people, whoever they are, I can't remember. I did see a list of names. Will probably become named. I know that sounds terrible. I haven't really looked into it because I'm just like, I'm at this point, I'm not even supposed to be talking about it.
We're probably so old we're out of touch of who new people are, I guess.
There was a rumor as well on the Netflix side, not that obviously Lord of the Rings is Amazon, but that maybe the Resident Evil TV series is going to start filming in South Africa in August. It's still a rumor at this stage, but it looked like it came from a production diary listing of upcoming productions, and it was supposed to be 8 episodes, I think is what I saw, filming in South Africa. Now that's interesting because Constantine Films, who own the rights, they're behind this series. This is supposed to be different from the film series with Mila Jovovich. Now
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, the last film had a lot of production problems. It was shot in South Africa as well, and this is where there was the stunt woman who got severely injured, almost killed, and another stunt guy who did get killed, got crushed by a Humvee. And there was a lot of lawsuit kind of wrangling going on about the legalities surrounding contracts and safety and stunts and all that sort of stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see that they've decided, the film production company's gone, oh yeah, we'll just go back to South Africa. And it was actually, outside of the dramas to do with the stunt stuff, it was pretty good working there. Really? Like, that sounds not a great... Like, it's fine on a production level. People go shoot stuff in South Africa, but when you've been dealing with that sort of trauma and trouble, publicly that does not look like a good idea.
No.
But as I said, there's a rumour at this stage, but it is due at some point, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the take is on the law. Apparently it's not related to the film franchise, so...
Speaking of other film franchises, the Harry Potter series is gone from the Australia and New Zealand Netflix.
Now that makes sense because it's Warner Brothers franchise and it's probably going to end up on their streaming platform through, combined with, I think it's like HBO and all that sort of stuff.
I think so, yeah.
So that probably makes sense. So does that include, is it all the films? Because they had the Grindelwald...
The Fantastic Beasts.
And those two were supposed to be on Netflix.
I would assume, but I'm not 100%.
It's a different agreement.
I mean, they're both part of the... Well...
Might be different agreements based on...
I don't know, because I know that when the Harry Potter sort of went kind of under a rebranding, and I say that in air quotes, that I think when the first Fantastic Beasts came out, it was under the Wizarding World sort of brand.
Yeah. But it's still part of a film
it's still
franchise.
Part of the whole series. So...
Because it was newer, there might be different. I'm just meaning, is it still on there?
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I just know that Harry Potter's gone.
It's one of those things where sometimes stuff disappears early, and then it won't be anywhere for a few months until something else releases. And obviously, HBO or Warner's not releasing anything here anytime soon. They've announced, so it's disappeared. And it'll be like this in other parts of the world too, where the agreements just come up and then all the films get pulled. So I'm guessing that was at the end. Was that at the end of January that went? Was it in December or something like that? Do you know?
I don't know. It was mid-December, I think, wasn't it?
It's usually end of a month. That's usually a calendar month.
Okay. I'm not too sure then.
Yeah, probably December. Probably end of December then. So if you didn't watch it before Christmas, well, you either have to have a DVD or a Blu-ray, or just wait, or download illegally.
Yeah,
I think you're
not that we
not that we endorse
that. That's the word I was looking for. I was going to say indulge.
Indulge, yeah.
Yeah, we don't indulge in that either.
I don't indulge in that. I don't indulge either. Like I have plenty of Blu-rays and DVDs of my own. I don't indulge in piracy. So, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't endorse or indulge.
Yeah, piracy's a crime. You wouldn't steal a policeman's hat.
Oh, you knew you were going to say that. You knew you were going to say steal a policeman's helmet.
10 points for that one, if you get it.
For Gryffindor?
Hey, good segue there.
So we'll move from Harry Potter to Star Trek. Noah Hawley, I think we talked about this last episode, had been brought in to create a new Star Trek film. Mm-hmm. There was discussions whether or not it was going to be part of the Kelvin timeline, which is the modern J.J. Abrams thing, which is interesting because that's got a connection to the Picard series that's going. We'll come back to that later on, or shortly. Sorry, but the idea is that the more conversations we're hearing in the industry rumors and stuff is it's more likely to be a new take. Simon Pegg got asked about this at some point just recently, and he hadn't heard anything, but he thinks that he was positive about the idea of it and thinks that it'll be fine. I mean, Pegg has a lot of kudos in that sense because he was in charge of writing or co-writing the previous film, which was well received. So it seems like if they were going to go back to get someone else to do another one at that point, he may have been approached. It may have been the case. He might have been immediately after the film said, "Hey, look, that went really well. I'm really happy with it. Do you want to do another one?" And he went, "No, but fine.
Yeah, I'm good."
Maybe he's like, we've got that curse of the alternate, because remember that they talk about this in Space as well. The odd numbered Star Trek movies being crap.
Yeah.
And then when they changed the J.J. Abrams, it flipped. It became the even numbered ones with the not so great ones, I think. Yeah, 2 and 4. 2 was not good, so it means 4 would be. So he's like, I'm not running that curse because that means I've made one good one and the next one's going to be terrible.
That's probably a fair call.
But as I said, there's a connection between the Kelvin universe and the new Amazon series Picard. It's been doing really, really well, and so they've basically been able to shape the universe by using the situation from the movie with Romulus basically being destroyed as a pivoting point in the drama that sets up Picard, which I think is a very clever take. Yeah. I haven't seen the show, but I've had several people
here yet. Is it?
I think it's on Amazon. I think here.
So it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you can stream it on Amazon. Overseas, it's on like CBS or Access or whatever it is in the States, but here it's on Amazon. People I've been talking to have been really, really positive about it. I mean, I'm not a massive Star Trek fan as much as I am anything really. I do vaguely used to watch episodes when it was on TV, but I'm kind of still keen. It sounds very interesting. It's been doing very well. Patrick Stewart was on The View with Whoopi Goldberg, and she was on The Next Generation. It was like 20 or 30 episodes. Yeah,
she was on quite a few.
She was a recurring guest star. Obviously, it was around her commitments for other productions she was filming on, shooting, whatever. So she would come on, and because she was a big Star Trek fan, that was how she was on the first time. She obviously doesn't appear in the first season of Picard, but he came on and said, "I want to have you in the second season." Yeah. So that was a nice little thing, and she seemed very happy about it.
And I guess in a way it confirms the second season as well, but I think even before the first episode, they'd already announced a second episode, a second season rather.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny too because there was an interview with Ian McKellen just recently as well, and he just said that he actually tried to convince Patrick Stewart not to do Star Trek back in the 80s. He's like, it sounds like a terrible idea, a career suicide, but then he said afterwards, I'm really glad he didn't listen to me.
I swear if those two weren't already married, they'd probably marry each other.
Oh, was it the ceremony or something just recently? Was the launch of Picard and they shared a kiss on the
that's right, there was too.
On the red carpet and everyone went nuts. It was hilarious. Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I watched a video. I think it was an Entertainment Tonight thing. Came up on my YouTube suggested videos, and I decided to watch it because it just seemed so funny. They show Patrick Stewart's press day for Picard. They showed him on a iPad his first ever interview he'd ever did for Star Trek: The Next Generation in 1987, and he's very well. I used to go back to watch my Star Trek and have a cup of tea in between rehearsals while I was at the Royal Shakespeare. Like, he's very proper, and he's like, he's just saying,
he'd be very British.
He's very British and very, very well spoken and very and his reaction to it is like, that's really embarrassing. Like, look at me, like, I'm just like, yes, I'm way above this work. Basically, you should watch it if you get the chance. It's absolutely hilarious.
Going from Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, we'll go to an X-Men segue with Nicholas Hoult.
So the three of them obviously started to get the X-Men.
Yeah. Now, Nicholas Hoult is to join the Mission Impossible cast as the bad guy.
You seemed quite surprised when I told you this. Like,
oh. Well, I just kind of think his age is...
But this is the thing, isn't that kind of a cool thing? Like, we're so used to these bad guys that are like around the same age or like much older... And it's not many movies where you really see the young kind of bad guy comparatively to the main good guy. It's not a common
since you've
trope.
told me this, like, I've kind of thought about it more, and I was like, I could probably see him being like like a technology sort of guy, like trying to win with technology, perhaps, or do you think he'd be too pigeonholed?
Well, that's the problem. You were saying that. The immediate thing that goes to my mind when I think of a younger villain against an older thing is Die Hard 4.0. It's Timothy Olyphant, who's younger than Bruce Willis, right?
Yeah.
And that's a technology-based thing. So the immediate trope you're going to is literally young person equals new fanning technology.
Yeah, right, I'll give you that.
It could be, but it could be more interesting. I mean, Mission Impossible is full of gadgets and interesting things, so technology is kind of part of its forte anyway. So it could be anything. I kind of like it. I mean, we saw Holt in Wellington last year. He's very... Did you sit through any of the panels? I can't remember if you did. I can't remember. He's very charming.
Yeah.
And
no, I did actually. I did.
You did. He's very charming, and so I could easily believe him being able to persuade, being this very showboaty, not showboaty is the wrong word, but kind of like charismatic, very hold a scene. And if he's not chewing scenery, which I don't think he would, it would probably be a good choice. I think I'd be very interested. He wasn't the only announcement last week though. What was really even more shocking was the casting reveal of Henry Cerny, I think it is, Cerny, who played back in the original Mission Impossible film, which was 95, 96. He was the IMF agency director, Eugene Kittredge. Mm-hmm. He's coming back, which is interesting. Now, obviously, this is going to be a spoiler, so avert your ears for the next 10 to 15 seconds. In the last Mission Impossible, the head of the thing was Alec Baldwin's character, and he was killed. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, the idea is that obviously he may be brought back in to reform the agency or some connection, or maybe he's something to do with the bad guys, and that's the twist all along. Because that's what those things are. It's usually someone inside the IMF, let's be honest. But I don't think so. I think that's probably too much of a worn trope at this point. But it's very interesting to see someone who was right back at the start of the franchise and very important as far as the characters, because he's the guy that's pursuing Hunt in the original movie. To have such an important role, all of a sudden come back after like 6 or 5 other movies for the 7th one, like that's insane. Though. I don't think any franchise has ever done that sort of span of something and then bring someone back at that. So that's pretty crazy.
Especially over the course of several movies, but it's also like 20 odd years as well.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I mean,
more than that. It's 25 years almost.
And I suppose it kind of confirms that he didn't drown at the giant fish tank in the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I forgot about that. He was with the fish tank exploding.
The gum.
That's right. We shall move on. I think we're into comic book territory now, officially. There's a lot of comic book stuff.
We're getting towards the end, so please bear with us. We know this is long.
So much stuff.
So we've got a Morbius trailer which has come out, and that looks to be leading to a Sinister Six or a live-action multiverse.
Yeah, it's interesting. Within the Sony side of the MCU, basically, but it's not. Maybe it's connected or maybe it's not, because this is the thing, like, everyone's gone, right, okay, you've got Tom Holland playing Spider-Man in the MCU, and you've got Venom, which is kind of disconnected currently, and you own the rights to, like, the Spider-Man franchise, but you can't really connect that easily to the MCU without making more problems. So how do you do that? Well, Sony's already kind of answered their own question by having the animated multiverse. And you've got a League of Villains, and they've always been wanting to do a Sinister Six movie, so these two things could coalesce into something. What's made this more interesting is that in the trailer for Mobius, there's a graffiti-covered wall with a picture on the side of it, and I'll let you talk about that, because I think that's the bit that's really got the internet kind of buzzing.
Yeah. So the graffiti on the wall is of Spider-Man, and does it say, was it liar or traitor or something? I can't remember what it says across it. Like, it's got something else spray-painted across it or above it. But I think what's really made everyone lose their collective minds is that it's a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
Or at least very similar to that anyway.
It's literally a one-for-one of one of the publicity stills.
Oh, okay.
So of a shot that was released for the Sam Raimi Tobey Maguire era. And then at the end of the trailer, you have an appearance from, well, it's not acknowledged as such, but it looks like Toombs, played by Michael Keaton, from the
Spider-Man
Homecoming, which means that we've got this all of a sudden weird crossover. But is he playing the same character?
Yeah.
Is he playing an alternate version of the character from a different universe? Like, this will be very interesting. You're dealing with a movie that deals with basically vampiring.
Yeah.
Like there's a vampire, basically. So it's a very interesting world to enter anyway. So, and how does this connect to Venom and Venom 2, which is coming?
Yeah, and of course, I think with the Spider-Man 3 coming as well.
Yeah, another Spider-Man film. And so, and whether or not they want to try and do a live-action multiverse. And then that opens the possibility, which, would it be interesting if they brought back, Tobey Maguire as an older Peter Parker, and Andrew Garfield as another Peter Parker, and then, like, cast, like, a Miles Morales, Peter Parker team up, somewhere, and then brought these in together and did basically the live action version of the multiverse animated film. It's mind-boggling. Anyway.
And it also begs the question too, is that if it's set in the Sonyverse as well as the MCU, will it somehow be involved with Doctor Strange in the multiverse? Will that be a similar sort of multiverse, or will it be a separate multiverse?
Well, it would be very easy to be able to connect that tissue idea, even if it's not directly referenced in the Sony ones. It's in the Marvel MCU ones, but still have it adjacent and still work without ever officially connecting the two, other than the main connections they make. It'd be interesting, but yeah, it's very much a comic book crossover situation here, and like Sony could do something really, really good with this, or really, really horrible. And knowing their track record so far, it's bad in 50-50.
Yeah. Speaking of like comic book crossovers and different universes and all that, recently I'm going to go to my TV corner for a little minute here, so bear with me.
But it does connect to films as well.
Yeah. So the Arrowverse set of TV shows like Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman have just had their end of year big crossover, which was Crisis on Infinite Earths, based on the 1980s comics.
And this was just leading up to the end of Arrow as well.
It was leading up to the end of Arrow as well, yeah. Which was sad. I cried. But I won't go there. I'll admit it. Shut up. Don't make fun of me.
It was more the fact that you said I won't go there. After making the teary face.
So there was a scene in, I think it was the Arrow episode of it. So it was the first episode of Arrow for this year. Came back where the Flash is running through the multiverse trying to find all his friends because they've all been wiped out because of the antimatter which wiped out all Earths. Now, he came across Star Labs from his Earth, but he also came across Ezra Miller's Flash from the DCEU.
So all of a sudden we've just tied all the TV connection to the DC movie franchise.
Yeah, and I think like I talked about this in an earlier
But they already tied other movie franchises.
So they tied in like the 89 Batman movie, they tied in the Brett Ward, Adam West Batman TV series. They've added in like Smallville, the Birds of Prey TV series. Almost anything you could think of DC related, they tied it in. Like even Titans, like the Netflix Titans and a whole bunch of other stuff you can think of, they've tied it in.
It would be hilarious if like Lego Batman turned up at some point.
I think that's probably one thing they probably couldn't get. But it wouldn't have surprised me. Maybe there's like a little Lego Batman somewhere in the background that someone hasn't found yet. But so there was this interaction between Grant Gustin's The Flash and just Ezra Miller's Flash, because is he named at all? I don't think he was.
I can't even remember. He is, but
because in this, Ezra Miller thinks that Grant Gustin is just like a guy in cosplay imitating him, and he's like, no, I'm the Flash, and he kind of gives Ezra Miller's character the name for that, and he talks about how there's like a multiverse and all that, and it kind of mentions how Ezra Miller's Flash and Cyborg is still pretty close because as he's disappearing back into his universe, he's like, I told Victor this was possible or something, or Victor's never going to believe this. Yeah. So I guess in a way it kind of means that Cyborg could be in the Flash movie which comes out. Yeah. Or there'd be some sort of connection there. Trying to connect it. Ugh. But that's still a couple of years away for now.
Brain hurts.
Yeah, there's so much to it. I mean, there's so many connections made that I don't know if the DCEU will acknowledge it, but we'll see what happens.
Who knows? That sounds overly complicated to me, but I just got excited about Spider-Man doing the same thing, so why can't I talk about it?
So also in the Arrowverse, there was also I think there was a small throwaway gag in the Legends of Tomorrow start of the season this year, where in Legends of Tomorrow there's a character called Bebo who's like their version of a Tickle Meowmo, effectively, and it became like a giant sort of threat for them, and they had to destroy it. But there was like a poster or something in the background, or a mention of it, that Ryan Reynolds was to play Detective Bebo in a movie.
So it's like a pastiche of
Detective Pikachu, yeah. But so it's not a real thing, but they're kind of taking the piss out of it.
It would be hilarious
but it's kind of nice.
It would be hilarious to get Ryan Reynolds to come and do a couple of voice lines for something at some point.
It would be pretty funny if they did go whole hog on that. It wouldn't surprise me. That's the end of that.
That's
my
a little
TV
segue.
word.
Going back to the DCU kind of crossover, in like those films, it came out that David Ayer was actually offered a Suicide Squad sequel after the first film to continue making franchises and declined to continue doing it. So it was interesting. So James Gunn's eventual outcome of doing the Suicide Squad only came about because he decided not to do a direct sequel of Suicide Squad 2. If that makes sense. I don't know how this is all going to work and the payoff. I already know that Birds of Prey has a direct nod to Suicide Squad in it. That's just come up on the news on my news feed. Just like I didn't even know. Like I didn't want to read it, but obviously it came up as title.
Yep.
Like Birds of Prey has direct connection to Suicide Squad. Thanks. But we'll see. I mean, I'll be very interested to see once you get this, and then you get Shazam and Aquaman sequels and Wonder Woman 84 and all this sort of together. They're just going to still be adjacent films of their own accord. Are they still kind of semi-connected? Obviously, doing a crossover like you were talking about with the TV series with the Flash, is trying to connect those things. All of a sudden, you're making this messy again. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, be interested to see. Anyway.
Sticking with DC, Karen Gillan would like to star as and direct a Barbara Gordon Batwoman film for DC.
I could see that.
I could definitely see that. She's definitely got the hair for it.
I think she made that comment too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think she did. I think I remember hearing when I read this. She made a jokey comment about it. If she's keen to direct, and she wants to do it, they want to do it. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
She's definitely got the moveset too. If you
so I've seen her in Jumanji
and
Guardians.
Yeah, so she definitely could pull off the role. I don't doubt it. And it'd be another one of those actors that kind of is able to jump between Marvel and DC.
Another one to tick up the list.
Exactly.
Like
back and forth either way.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to know is if that does get greenlit, if it becomes like a mini franchise of like say 3 or 4 films, maybe if it gets that many. I'd like to know if they do the Killing Joke story.
Yeah. Well, it would not be the version that we saw at the start of the first. Let's not even talk about.
No, we won't even talk about that. No.
Let's move on. So Marvel seems to already kind of connecting these two things together here. We might as well connect it on. Going back to Patrick Stewart a little bit, I kind of was wanting to talk about this earlier, but I thought it was better to keep it in the Marvel news because it kind of was a bit more relevant. But apparently Kevin Feige met with Patrick Stewart about Professor X. And Stewart's resolve is basically that he was so happy with the way that Logan went that he's probably not interested in coming back to the character. But it was a discussion. He had thought about it. You know? Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's so hard to cast that kind of role. You need someone with an iconic look, and Stewart was such a perfect fit for that role that it's hard to see someone else doing it. And I can get that. I can totally get that.
I suppose it's the same with Picard.
I guess it's the same. And I think even to say with the X-Men thing, I think it's going to be very hard when they finally do a new version of Wolverine, because so many people were just like, it's Hugh Jackman, like it's just that so... Like everyone thought it was so ridiculously unfitting at the time because obviously it didn't match the physical proportions of what Wolverine was, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter in the end. People just enjoyed his version of the character so much that, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. But unfortunately, he won't be back unless, and this is where I'm going to segue. He somehow appears in Deadpool 3.
Yeah,
because that could always happen. That would be pretty funny. And so the writers...
there is time travel in Deadpool 3 now.
Exactly. And there's a connection to the X-Men universe, and they can make a joke about the old X-Men universe and whatever they cook up to be a new X-Men universe in the MCU, if they do. I mean, they probably will eventually, let's be honest. Yeah. So that could be a nice little crossway. The writers have confirmed that it'll be R. Yeah. Disney's not wanting to change that, and it'll likely be branded under the new Studios brand at Disney, not Fox, but the... 20th Century Pictures, and just come out as that subsidiary, not part of Disney Marvel branding. It'll also have obviously the Marvel logo, but it won't be directly noted as an MCU film, I guess, basically. But obviously, still doesn't mean it can't jibe and have crossover elements and that sort of stuff, because it becomes this floaty meta thing anyway, which is kind of
it'll reference that anyway, that it's not an MCU film, but it is.
It's an MCU, exactly, and it already has that connection over with the old guard at Fox, which means historically it'll look really funny when you look at the whole franchise eventually going, oh yeah, it's kind of like the actual Deadpool comic book where he kind of can slip in and out of things, like quite at will almost, in the way the franchise was written. So it kind of has worked out somewhat beneficial in that regard, I think. I another legacy of the X-Men that hasn't been released is the New Mutants. So the cast assembled to see the film. It was only about 2 years after they finished filming it.
Yeah.
I think maybe even longer, 2.5 years. Just when around the time they dropped the trailer publicly.
Yeah.
There was another bit of extra news that came out that basically said that they had looked at connections when they were writing a setting it in the 80s and connecting it to the actual existing X-Men franchise and some of the characters. There was going to be a crossover and they're going to have James McAvoy and all this sort of stuff in it. And they dropped it. In hindsight, that seems like it was a very good thing just because of where it's ended up coming out. So it'll be interesting to see what the end result is. I don't think I personally think the damage has been done. I don't think people are going to be that enthused about it by this point. They'll just know if they care about it, they're just like it's way too past its point.
Yeah, I think it's too little too late for it now, to be honest. Yeah, it had its chance and it's just gone.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Speaking also of gone, Scott Derrickson.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Hey.
Sorry, I was reading further down the list.
You skipped ahead. Scott Derrickson left Doctor Strange, which is a bit of a shock to everyone. There was hints in his Twitter kind of over December about unsettling creative differences going on, about the studio manipulation, about it seemed to do with like what the studio required time frame wise, like they wanted it out by a certain time and the production wasn't coming along at the pace that he was happy with and he was feeling like he was being rushed or something. Very thinly veiled, of course, not direct. He's obviously had a lot of talk with other people that he admires and works with in the industry, and they've kind of like he's come to a decision and went, right, I just can't do this. And that's a big call for any director to make, you know, especially someone who's had reasonable success with their previous outing and obviously does like the character and likes the world. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise around the start of the year. But we'll see what they announce to put a replacement director. They haven't changed the date at this stage. It's still going ahead where it was originally planning to be. So I don't know.
Who knows? We'll soon find out. Speaking of other things, filming shortly, Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3, which we mentioned before, is to start filming in July. It comes out late 2021, is it?
Probably will be, I think, or early 2022. I lose the track of where these things are. The next Thor also begins shooting just slightly afterwards in August. And Christian Bale's joined the cast. They haven't said who. People have been theorising all over the internet as to what.
Yeah, I think some people are saying Battery Bill.
Yeah, even though I think even
someone else.
One of the current Thor writers said that would make sense to them, but they came up with a couple of other suggestions. I can't remember what they are.
Yeah.
So that's shooting not too far away. And then Captain Marvel 2 has been officially announced. Not that we didn't know it was coming. The writer for WandaVision is on board, or one of the writers, or a couple of the writers, I forget. Ironically, the Captain Marvel directors and writers, so a duo, are working on another Disney Plus series, so they couldn't come back. So that's kind of weird. You'd think that you go, right, you guys did really well last time. Don't worry about that Disney Plus series. Worry about the movie that you can make a sequel to. But obviously they're invested in this, so it's a bit of a switch around. Someone from a Disney Plus series working on a movie, director from a movie working on Disney Plus. We'll direct this.
Yeah, they could just sort out schedules. Now, there was some news from the Loki Disney Plus series. There's been someone added to the cast, and all I can say is, wow.
I knew you were going to do that. I put it in
there. I was trying to find a segue to do it.
I was even putting it in there, so you could just go, wow.
Yeah. Oh, well, too little.
So,
I've already done the segue, but Owen Wilson is joining Loki.
Yeah, sounds like he's an important cast member. There's a hint in the bit which I was about to talk about, which is that for the Super Bowl they showed brief snippets of WandaVision, Loki, and Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
And there's one shot of Loki properly in there, I think.
Yeah, and he's wearing what I've seen online looks to be time travel jail.
Yeah, because there's a time something TVA, I think it is. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out Owen Wilson's like the head of that thing. Yeah. Because I said he's co-starring, and it would make sense that maybe he's the person who's pursuing Loki. You know, Loki escapes,
traveling him. Yeah,
and it becomes a series of like, where's Loki gone to now? Let's try and catch Loki. Then he travels to somewhere else, and let's try and catch him again. Like I could see them quite falling into a little bit of a TV series trope, perhaps, but. Yeah, who knows? It did say co-starring, so it's obviously an important role. So that was my only theory. I can't, but he could play anyone really, to be honest. But
it'd probably be the protagonist, I'd imagine. Maybe depending on how you want to look at what Loki is, whether he's the antagonist or protagonist.
I think he is the antagonist in this because it's the Loki that's still mostly villainous. Yeah. At this point, obviously post like Tesseract stealing, still hasn't kind of softened a bit.
No.
Anyway, we'll see. As I said, they showed some footage from the series. Very interesting. WandaVision looks very weird. A bunch of different sitcom looks from the 50s, 70s, 80s, and now.
Yeah, somehow it's popped in the original Wanda
Costume
as well, but a lot of people are saying, oh no, it's probably just a Halloween joke or something and it'll be a one-off. But we'll see.
And then she appears kind of more of a normal, like the South that we've been used to in the movies, but it's in black and white. And there's babies.
Yeah, so there's like Vision's holding like a pacifier in one of his hands.
Yeah, and then two of them pop out of these two cribs. There's obviously something going on in this warping of reality. So I think obviously we'll have a lot of importance to do that. I'd be very interested to see what the setup is, and we won't have to wait too long. That will debut at the end of the year. Falcon and the Winter Soldier in August, and also Bob Iger also announced that the second season of The Mandalorian was coming in October. So, which we kind of established would probably be the case because it would be a year after.
About the same time the first season came out.
Can't wait! Continuing on the Marvel reign, Robert Downey Jr. was talking a lot for Doolittle, which absolutely bombed. We won't spend any time talking about that, but he was doing promotion for that film, and people obviously keep asking him about Marvel and Iron Man and all this. And basically, several times he came out saying, like, I think I've done my dash, basically. But I'll never say never because, you never say these things about these things.
I've done my 8 movies or whatever it was.
And the extras. And he made some jokes about him to do with the Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow film and, like, whether or not there was... Because obviously there was... We've talked about them using shots from Civil War, but whether or not he would go back and shoot some extra stuff if they needed. And I would say it would be silly for them not to make use of that. If they said to him, like, they rang him up and said, hey, we've really got this idea, we really want you four to appear in this or doing that or a cameo in this.
Yeah.
He'll probably do it. And they'll keep it secret. It'll be like, Redford appearing in Endgame and, that stuff very down low. And then all of a sudden you go to see the new movie or the chuck on the thing for Disney Plus, and all of a sudden halfway through an episode he just appears, and everyone's like, holy crap, like,
and then the internet will lose their collective mind.
Exactly. I'll let you talk about the next thing to do with Marvel.
So Zendaya, who's in the Spider-Man films, she recently went to the Critics' Choice wearing like a kind of a very form-fitting dress.
It was like a plastic vest.
Yeah, it was vinyl, kind of plastic, but it was like very form-fitting, so it was like very body-hugging and
vacuum-packed almost. Like it was like, here's the body shape.
Yeah. So Gwyneth Paltrow had worn something very similar, if not the same thing, on the Harper's Bazaar cover. And I think Gwyneth Paltrow saw Zendaya at the Critics' Choice, and she said, oh, it looks like we've got something in common.
Because of the outfit.
Now... I know we've talked about Gwyneth Paltrow retiring from acting and all that, but I kind of feel as though she got a hint of Alzheimer's, perhaps.
She just didn't realise that she was in Spider-Man.
Yeah, because she's in Spider-Man with Zendaya as well.
It's got something else in common.
She's got 2 things in common. Like, she forgot
technically 3 things. They're both actresses. But
that's kind of the big elephant in the room, I suppose.
Let's be more. So if we want to be more general, they're both women. I'm just being stupid now, but I know what you mean. It is kind of funny. I mean, she's retired, as I was saying. We were just talking about Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I don't think she said kind of it was the rigmarole of making movies she's not that interested in doing anymore. But I suspect again, if they brought him back and they wanted to bring her back for the same reason, they said like, hey, turn up for a day, do this, we'll pay you, just don't worry about it, and we'll make sure it's all very relaxed and chill. She'll probably do that too.
I think that's probably why, because I think in the end of Homecoming, it was probably literally that fact that she had forgotten.
She did make this comment later on when people she clarified, I'm working on these movies, I didn't know which movie I was working on sometimes.
Which is true, and it's very secretive,
and they overlapped. And
which is a fair call, I guess.
Brie Larson stuff in Infinity War and Endgame was done, or more, Endgame was done before they even shot Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
For example. So
she had no reference to go with.
Yeah, they even decided on the hairstyle, I think.
Yeah, so
which is why hairstyle changes in Endgame at the start.
Yeah, so her first go as Captain Marvel was in Avengers.
Yeah, so it could be just one of those things. And then maybe just, it's not important to Gwyneth Paltrow. She doesn't care about this stuff. She acts in it, she does her job, and then she goes home. Like,
shows up, does her job, gets a paycheck,
and she admitted as much. She said she hadn't seen the film. So it's fair enough. Some people don't watch their own films, some people aren't interested. Like, that's not an issue, but... Maybe she just is forgetful. Maybe she just is that person. Who knows?
Also, speaking of last bit of MCU here as well, Taika is being looked at, Taika Waititi that is being looked at for a future Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it was funny because when, I think it was around the time the directors got pulled off the changeover in Solo happened, and the one of the dramas, someone said, "Oh, Taika, would you like to take over? What would you have on Twitter or something?" And he was like, "Oh no, I'd be fired within a week if that happened." He joked about it, and like,
I think his sense of humor probably wouldn't fit that sort of movie.
Well, that's what I think he was thinking, but obviously they've decided that his work for Disney and for Marvel and for The Mandalorian has been so good that maybe he's worth a shot on a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And I think he said, it'd be silly to turn that down if the opportunity came up, like being much more serious about it. But I guess it's a lot of pressure too, so you've got to think about these things and what you want to do. I mean, right now he's obviously focused on the awards season with Jojo Rabbit.
Yep.
He's thinking about what he shoot. The next goal wins, and then Thor. So he's got a full slate for at least the next,
and of course
18 months.
Yeah, and at least what he's probably finishing up with the second season of Mandalorian now as well.
Yeah, if he's involved in that. I don't know how much heavily involved it is as well. So on top of that, a couple of full 18 months or so at least, and then maybe more Mandalorian on the back if they want to keep him back for that, because if there's a film and that takes precedence. We'll see, I guess. It's good to see him doing so well. It was funny, I went and watched, I was going to go see a movie the other night, and beforehand I had 90 minutes, and I ended up watching Tongan Ninja of all things.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot he's in it. He's a random guy and a chef who starts robot dancing at one point. And I was like, and the person I was with was like, "Oh, look, it's Tiger." Funny.
I haven't seen that
I'd
for a long time.
completely forgotten about that as well until I saw him. I'd forgotten that. Of course, obviously, he's connected to all those guys, so it made sense.
Yeah.
Just randomly appears in a musical number in the kitchen, for some random reason. I do recommend if anyone hasn't ever seen it, they can find it. And this is one thing I will say: if you can find it, it'd be amazing. You may actually have to pirate it. But if you find Tonga Ninja, it is a ridiculous film. But if you like your Flight of the Conchords, your Taika style, weirdest, absurdist comedy, and Jermaine Clement, you'll probably love
right
this
up
movie.
your
It's
alley.
right up your alley. It's absolutely hilarious.
Now, sticking with Star Wars, Rosario Dawson has come out and said that she'd be interested in playing Ahsoka Tano in a future Star Wars project.
Can you see that happening? Like, do you see that as a good choice for her for that role?
Yeah, I probably could.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of Rise of Skywalker, you actually hear Ahsoka's voice actor, Ashley Eccleston.
Oh, yeah.
I think you hear her
montage
as the montage of the
Jedi.
deceased Jedi. I want to say deceased, but nothing's really confirmed
Yeah, well,
apart from ones that you do know
Yeah,
are
well, they
deceased.
said that they were like, well, doesn't that basically confirm she's dead if she's a voice?
Yeah. So I probably could. I mean, I've just finished up the 4 seasons of Star Wars Rebels, and you do see Ahsoka at the end of that going away to go find the main character, Ezra Bridger. So it could touch on that. It could be a Disney Plus series. I mean, it could follow on from Rebels. I've got to know.
I could see them more doing it as a Disney Plus, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the film franchise, I think, is going to be very interesting going forward as well. I don't know. I mean, we're about to talk about this, and we might as well go forward on it. Mm-hmm. There's obviously been rumours of dramas to doing with the Obi-Wan series being cut back and rewriting scripts. They thought it might have been too similar to Mandalorian because we're going to deal with young Luke. And so forth. Ewan McGregor's kind of shot that down and said that it's not as dramatic as it all sounds, and
It's just the internet being the internet.
And yes, of course, which is the case. But it also probably has some nuggets of truth in it too, as these things tend to do.
They're just downplaying them.
So it'll be interesting to see. But I still think the platform moving forward. I've talked about this before. It's like a give take. Like I can see the success idea of making these little mini series that don't have to be movies on a platform where the risk's lower because it's got an existing audience. But then also it takes away from the idea that we don't need to have sequels to everything just because. And this is kind of go back to the Disney Plus stuff we talked about. Like, do we need to make this? Do we need to have Mighty Ducks with Gumball Bay?
Yeah.
Do we have to have a Sandlot sequel series? Do we have to? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know?
You need to pick your battles with what you think the audience will want as opposed to what you want.
I wish we were going to Jurassic Park because I could make that segue into we are going to there eventually, but it's like just because you could, it means you think you should.
You've played God.
Yeah, exactly, basically. So yeah, I don't know. So, but to me, I couldn't see a film based around that. Like they've already done an animated film around the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah,
and it
as well as a series.
Is it a couple series officially? Really?
Well,
theory, kind of.
Yeah, there was the original Clone Wars series, which was well received by people, but then the newer series came out, and I think that was slightly better received.
Yeah, so essentially, like, it's such a scope that these sorts of stories tend to tell themselves more episodically, which is why these shows worked, which is why slightly longer form series, even in live action, may tell these stories better than a 2-3 hour movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Now, John Williams, known for a lot of musical scores across the decades.
Of musical scores.
Like, you name, like 5 movies from the last,
50 years.
At least 50 years. One of them's probably bound to be a John Williams scored film.
Yeah. And if it's not John Williams, quite often it'll be someone writing music who trained from Williams.
Yeah.
In some cases, a lot of cases back in the 80s.
So, he's come out... It's probably one of his most well-known. It's probably the Star Wars franchise of movies. He's just got his 52nd Oscar nomination for Rise of Skywalker.
52nd.
That's...
Did you actually... I'm going to ask you this. You're probably going to say, no, I didn't. Do you know how many he's won?
I think it's in the teens.
Yeah. That's a pretty good odd rate.
But I'm not too sure.
Yeah, we have to look it up. I didn't bother looking it up either. I didn't think about this until right now, right this second. Well, I'm talking to you.
As always, because we don't plan ahead with this.
No.
But that's insane. Like, even if he hasn't won that many, that's still a hell of a lot of nominations.
It is. It is.
Like, and I think, like most people, he'd go up and go, just happy to be nominated.
Yeah, 52. I wonder if that's the most number of nominations by a person. I want to know that actually now. Is it the highest number of nominations by a single individual in the history of the Academy Awards?
I would say so.
That sounds bloody high.
That's like the one department where you could get nominated repeatedly.
Probably the most, yeah, because you're more likely to have a long career. Even actors wouldn't get to that level.
No, they'd get to like...
You get lucky to 10.
10 maybe, yeah.
For a lot of people. Like, that would be an extreme amount to be...
Yeah.
You'd have to be that consistently successful as an actor.
Yeah.
But a musician, that's... Yeah, I doubt that's... I'd say that's probably the highest number.
Yeah, we need to look this up and bring it into the next one. So speaking of Star Wars, the final sort of Star Wars bit here, there's a hashtag release the Abrams cut of Rise of Skywalker trending online because I don't know how much of this is true or not, but apparently Disney played around with the editing of Rise of Skywalker as to what Abrams originally wanted.
Yeah, well, there was various discussions about that, which was interesting, and then that was followed up by the reveal of information, artwork, and details from Colin Trevorrow's version of Episode 9, which was titled Jewel of the Fates, or his son tried to call it at the time, Star Wars Episode 9, The Star Wars.
Yeah.
I love that tweet.
It's great.
And it's all been confirmed because he's showing these artworks. Yep, that was mine. Yep, that was from the artwork. Yep, that's correct. That's the correct title. So obviously all the leaks have become true, and all the people that worked on it have been slowly putting all these details out when the backlash to Abrams' version has not been so universally received. Both of these things have been just all over the place. I want to say.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've read some decent excerpts from the Trevorrow script. And to me, it seemed really good.
But again, you've got a few things. One thing is stuff on paper and designs that don't necessarily reflect what a final product would be. Secondly, the script was written when Carrie Fisher was still alive and was intended to be a main part of the movie. So again, after her death, a restructure would have had to have fully taken place on anything related to her character, which is not within the realms, but it may have changed the way the script went. And finally, yeah, it's an unfinished script, so you never know. Without the production happening, films can be really good on the page and in a design concept, and then fail. Things can come together haphazardly in a design stage or on the script. Someone's got a gem of idea and they shape it and work on it while they're filming and in the edit, and then by the time you get to the end, you have like something really good. So you never know how these projects are going to go.
And then in editing, you go, shit, maybe we need to do some reshoots because this didn't really turn out how I wanted.
Yeah, or stuff's missing or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it in another perspective, I said this to someone else who was talking about this. Imagine the reverse of this is not true, but imagine the situation was that Rise of Skywalker was really well received, like really, really well received, and then this information came out. How would it be perceived? People would still be positive about it, but it'd be looked upon quite differently. People were much more talking about this a lot more because of their disappointment in the most recent film, more so than what it actually represents. And I think that has a telling mark. It's just people like the debate about quality Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think
there's just no consistency with the most recent trilogy. And you've brought it up to me. I can't remember whether it was on podcast or off, but you said to me that Abrams made a sequel to his own movie.
Yeah.
That still holds true.
Yeah, it does still hold true.
He didn't make a sequel to The Rise of to Last Jedi. He literally made a sequel to his own movie.
I mean, Trevorrow's one seems like it's more of a direct line sequel. It's following through this path because it was going to be a different director and a different, essentially the writer for a line of franchise, and that was going to have their own moulding on it. I'm not a big fan of Trevorrow's, as I've talked about. To me, he's a very much workaday director, and that's not a bad thing. There are definitely lots of them out there. But there hasn't been any panache to his style. So just because we've got some flashy artwork and a script that's different doesn't necessarily mean that it was going to not be any more or any less fan service when it came to the final result either. So everyone has to take these sorts of things with a grain of salt. I've definitely seen a lot of apologists, people going, "Oh, I doubted Trevorrow because of Booker Henry or because I didn't really like Jurassic World."
Yeah.
But which is a fair and unfair statement as well. It's me just now casting judgment on the fact that I don't know, the type of director he is. To me personally, I mean, other people might think he's a brilliant mastermind. I don't personally see it. But that's the same thing in reverse. Like just being apologetic because you didn't like one thing, but they may have made something good. Well, that's any director. I mean, Colin Trevorrow could still make to this day a film that comes out and is absolutely wows me and floors me and goes, "Wow, I really thought he was not this type of director, and he's actually really surprised me." That could have been Star Wars, or it could have been anything else. So, definitely wasn't Booker Henry, that's for sure.
No. And speaking of Colin Trevorrow, he's been shown off animatronic dino. Was it dino or dinos for the next Jurassic World?
I think it was
movie?
A couple of dinos. It wasn't very much, but it was enough to give people the idea that they are continuing that trend of trying to use some animatronic and practical effects along with CG. Which, to be fair, did really well for the last two Jurassic World films. They're still quite CG heavy, but there are definitely elements of using practical animatronic effects that kind of stay true to the original films where they did that a lot and try to balance it out. Obviously, we use a lot more CG now than they did, but it's that thing we've talked about plenty of times in the past of like making sure that things last longer when you balance these things out and craft a world that feels a lot more seamless in those respects. Yeah. People interacting with something close, especially,
makes it more
tangible,
believable. Yeah,
it's way more believable than them trying to create them reacting to something that's not actually there, or stroking something that was covered in green,
or stroking a pillow,
or a guy dressed in a suit pretending to be a raccoon.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that I've seen is like a little baby Triceratops, which is reminiscent of the was it the Jurassic World? I can't remember the title of it, but it was like that little 5-minute short film.
Oh,
the campsite, yeah,
which I wasn't a big fan of, but it was alright.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where this.
There was definitely a combination of CG and
some potentially
practical.
going, yeah.
And there's on-set practicals, obviously the damage being done to the set that they're in was all practical as well, which was kind of cool, and I just still like that. That had, to be fair, while I didn't absolutely adore that short, it definitely felt more in tune with, say, the first couple of films than perhaps the Jurassic World films did. A bit more gritty, a bit more realistic. I don't know. They did announce the title for the film as well, I believe. I hadn't even seen this. You were the one that told me this.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure whether this is true or not. I've only seen it on one place.
So it's rumoured, maybe.
It's potentially rumoured, but apparently it's Jurassic World New Era.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can kind of see what they're playing at. I mean, all the dinosaurs have left the
world. Has become Jurassic World.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's, the thing with that is that in a way they're kind of rehashing Jurassic Park 3 where all the pteranodons left the birdcage. It's like, what's happened to them? Like if the first Jurassic World is supposed to be set on the original Isla Nublar, surely it's still this whole world, so people should know about the pteranodons that left.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of confused as to what happened to that. And
there's no kind of continuity in these series. And as I said, we've talked about, we don't even know if this is only just a direct sequel, if this franchise is a direct sequel only to Jurassic Park, or it exists in the same world as Jurassic
2 and 3.
Yeah,
The Lost World and 3. Yeah,
but
we're unsure.
Obviously, also this new movie, we've obviously brought back Malcolm previously in the last movie for a brief appearance, and so the idea is now they're going to bring him back, and also the two main cast members from the original Jurassic Park, and this may give us a bit of an answer on that. If there's any reference to obviously Alan doing stuff that was related to Jurassic Park 3, then maybe, but we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, so it's going to be Sam Neill's Dr. Alan Grant and
Ellie Sattler.
Ali Sattler, I can't remember
Laura
the
Dern.
actress name. Thank you. Laura Dern's Ali Sattler. So they're both back, the original cast. And I think Betty... Sorry?
No, I was going to say continue.
I was going to say, I think BD Wong's coming back as well, because
Yeah.
he up and hightailed it with was it an egg or an embryo in the last one?
Was it
I can't
embryos,
remember.
I think. Because he'd been
He
genetically...
kind of pulled a Nedry and just got out of Dodge, but...
early, before everyone else
Yeah.
died.
So I think he's potentially going to be the villain for the next one.
Makes sense. Who knew?
we'll
Who
see
knew
what
when you went
happens.
back all that way, all those years ago, in that small little appearance where he was in the lab in Jurassic Park, you knew that he was going to become some sort of criminal mastermind stealing dinosaur DNA.
Which is weird because in the book...
Dino DNA. Sorry.
Which is weird because in the book he dies anyway. His character dies.
Yes.
So...
But then so did Hammond, so you know.
Wow, yeah, that's
it that
true. We'll see what happens.
Shall we move on?
We shall. Finally got all that out of the way.
That's
My
taken a while.
goodness.
That was a lot of news. Had lots to talk about.
Yeah, sorry about that. If you're still with us,
Thank
well
you.
done you.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
You deserve 10 points.
We still got a lot of trailers to talk about, though.
Yeah.
Some of this we kind of talked a little bit about during the thing, so we can kind of skip over them. And I don't want to talk too much about them in general. All right, so we talked previous proper episode about Tenet. And obviously we saw the
prologue.
IMAX prologue, and then a few days later they released the trailer, and we didn't get to talk about it too much because I think it was literally the day of or the day after our recording. Mm-hmm. Trailer just still doesn't make any more sense to me.
No.
It's a good trailer, and it obviously got people interested and a lot of people talking, and people kind of excited for a long period, and then it kind of has gone quiet again. So it'll probably happen again the next time the trailer comes out, but what sort of impact that has on the final film, I don't know. But you can at least now see the car rolling backwards like we saw and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, people
It's not just us talking nonsense.
Exactly. We talked about the New Mutants. The cast saw the movie. They dropped a trailer. So it's another trailer for the film. It still looks like a bit of a horror movie. Still don't know where it's going. Interesting, but probably not something I'm going to see at the cinemas, which, again, probably doesn't bode well.
No.
I'll take one more thing,
Yep.
and then I'll get you to jump across to some other superhero ones. Quiet Place Part 2. There was another trailer that was put out that was... So the first trailer... Sorry, let me rephrase this. There was a teaser for the first trailer. Then there was a trailer. Then there was a second trailer. And the second trailer kind of sets up the idea that you're going to see a bit of a flashback to what happened on the first day when all these creatures started coming and attacking people. Spoilers, because you haven't seen it, but you know the gist, so it's all right. And then there was a Super Bowl ad, which we'll come back to later as well, which kind of expanded on that a little bit more, but it was basically a version of the second trailer.
Yeah.
But it looks good, and I'm looking forward to it now. And I have seen the first movie now, so I kind of had buried the lead on that a little bit. So now I know what's going on. It was really good. I do recommend it. I definitely recommend you should sit down and see it for sure.
Now, we've got some two ofs or second of trailers. We've got one for Birds of Prey or
Can you remember the title?
The Emancipation of One Fantabulous Harley Quinn?
Yeah, I think that's
Or
right.
something similar?
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to it. It's a Birdman, playing Birdman, as I
Yeah.
remember. I kind of really do like the style of this, but lots of people talk to it went, it doesn't look really good to me. And the reviews that have been coming out early, because it's been getting had its premiere and stuff, has been pretty positive. So, but I'll wait until you see that. That never says anything, because you have these, and then all of a sudden the movie actually gets wide release reviews, and then everyone's like, it's alright, or it's not good,
It's
or
average.
So we'll see. But I like the look of it, so I'm happy. I'm going to go see it. I think pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I'll probably go see it. Just because it's...
Black Widow?
Yeah, I haven't even... I don't know if I have seen the second trailer for this. I don't think I've seen the second trailer for any of these, to be honest.
It's probably a good thing. Just be honest, at the end of the day, the fact that there was a second trailer and you haven't seen it's probably a good thing. It emboldened a bit more of characters and all that sort of stuff. I didn't even see it at first. It wasn't until a few days later someone was like, oh, have you seen this new trailer? I was like, oh, what? Really? Which is probably a good thing. So yeah, I haven't really put much effort into watching it, just simply because I'm like, I'll go see it, probably, because it's Marvel.
Yeah.
And we established this last episode,
Part of
I
the
think.
universe, yeah.
We established this last episode, we're just like, we'll just go see it.
There's also another Bloodshot trailer as well for the Vin Diesel.
Yep.
Film?
So also based on for graphic novel comic, I think.
Graphic comic, yeah.
And the second trailer looks really good. I actually am kind of enthused about this. It may end up being an absolutely terrible film, but the trailers are making it look awesome. To be quite honest, say what you will about Vin Diesel, that movie looks cool. So, definitely interesting.
And we touched on it before, the Jared Leto Morbius.
Morbius movie. God, I can't believe it. Thanks, autocorrect.
That's coming up.
Yeah. He's got a debilitating disease and he's looking into blood research, and then it basically turns into a vampire when he finds the research, obviously based off the comic book. Another comic character for Leto
To play.
I
mean, it could be one of those... you play a hero that's so forgettable that you actually end up playing one that redeems you.
It's true. It's possible. It's very, very true. Yeah, I'm more interested in what it means for the overall Spider-Man universe than it is for maybe the film itself, but it looks stylistically correct for what it should be, I guess.
There was the Daniel Radcliffe Guns Akimbo film, which was filmed here in Auckland, and there's definitely lots of Auckland shots in it.
Yes, is everyone saying that movie they made from the Harry Potter with guns meme?
Yeah.
That's everyone saying, because that's actually what it came from. I've seen the movie, because that was actually the movie I had to see at the movie marathon, which we hadn't talked about. But
are you allowed to talk about that now?
I can talk about the fact that I've seen it. I can't talk about the details of it, but it was at the movie marathon because the trailer's out now, so I figure I can't not say that I've already seen it in advance, I guess. And I really, really enjoyed it. So the trailer shows what the movie is, for good and bad, I guess. If you like the style, there's two trailers. There was one that was released locally for Mad Men. I think it was an international one that Saban put out overseas that has a cover version of You Spin Me Right Round, which is in the soundtrack on the movie. Yeah, I definitely think people will get an entertainment value of it. Is it going to be groundbreaking and win awards? No. Are you going to watch Daniel Radcliffe fire guns at people? Yes. Are there going to be explosions and people being killed? Yes. Are you going to laugh? Yes. And worth it.
All right. It sounds like one to watch. It was what, Vivarium? This was at the International Film Festival. This is the other film. You remember this once I bring this up. Remember they had the Art of Self-Defense I went to, and there was another movie they had Eisenberg and Imogen Poots together. This is the other movie. So the trailer finally got released officially because it's getting somewhat of a wide release in certain countries. I had read the original synopsis based on the film festival, but obviously not managed to see the film. But the trailer looks amazing. They're like a couple looking to buy a house, and they end up in this random neighborhood where all the houses are the same, and they get shown this house by this weird guy who's there as like a house realtor. And then when they try to leave, they can't leave, and all the streets look the same, and all the houses look the same, and it looks really, really weird and really unusual. So, and then they get given a child, and they're told they have to raise the child, and when they raise the child, they're allowed to leave. It was really weird, but it got really great reviews, and the visuals are amazing. So, really, really interested to actually see the whole thing now. All right, that sounds interesting as well. Wow. There was a Fantasy Island trailer as well, a second Fantasy Island.
It didn't invoke anything different than we were already talking about the first trailer, which we talked about late in the last proper episode.
Still looks kind of Saw-ish.
Yeah, I'm still interested to know how this works. Cause there's obviously there's going to be a twist on the idea, and obviously, but as I said, like not everyone's. They have to twist these really hard in some cases. If I think back to the actual Fantasy Island, some people's things were very nice and very sweet sounding.
Well, some people wanted to see loved ones again.
Yeah, you can kind of put where people were dead on a twist, but like if you were doing something nice for someone, how do you turn that into something evil? Or like it's kind of hard. There's a poster. I don't know if you've seen the poster.
No,
the poster is amazing. It's probably the best thing about the movie so far, which is not a great thing to say about a movie, but it's it looks like a tropical island with a big waterfall.
Yeah,
and then it reveals that it's like that iceberg picture where there's more underneath, and it looks like a skull going back like this.
Oh.
And the mouth where the waterfall is where the teeth are, and the eyes are like these sunken recesses in the rock, and then the underneath is where the rest of the mouth is underneath, and it looks like a screaming face. It was really cool poster design.
Okay, I might have to look at that.
It'll definitely stand out. If they put those posters up here, they'll definitely stand out a mile away. A very cool poster design. But great marketing.
Yeah.
Get people in to see the movie, whether or not the movie's any good. Well, can't tell from the trailer. But it's an interesting idea. I still think that's the one thing at the end of the day, and may make it interesting. Whether or not I go see the movie is probably not, but I probably will watch it, unless it gets absolutely trashed.
Yeah. There was a Mortal Kombat animated film. Is
Yeah.
this similar to the sort of the vignettes in the games?
It's kind of just like an animated style.
cutscenes,
Scorpion. Oh, fuck, I was supposed to write down the subtitle and I forgot it's Scorpion something. It's got an all-star cast and it's just like its own, I think it's its own sort of standalone story. Yeah, obviously not related to the Mortal Kombat movie that's coming out next year. Yeah, it should be interesting. Do check the trailer out if you're interested in Mortal Kombat. I think it's kind of looks alright. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was a whole lot, we mentioned about the Super Bowl earlier, but there was a whole lot of Super Bowl spots for a whole bunch of movies as well. So
yeah.
Do you want to go through
I'll
those?
just quickly run through this.
Yep.
There was a quick, they're all 30 seconds. No Time to Die, so the next James Bond. A few new shots, a few new beats, a few new quips. Top Gun Maverick, just some more what we saw in the previous trailer. I think this will be stuff that will appear in a second trailer that hasn't fully dropped yet. Same for Mulan, very similar to what we've already seen. There was the first reveal of Minions Rise of Gru, which is a direct sequel to Minions, which pretty much picks up where Minions finished, as I recall. Which there's a proper trailer that should be out today. I haven't even gone and looked. Not really that bothered. I don't like Minions. As we alluded to earlier, there was a Quiet Place Part 2 spot as well, which was a little bit of an expansion on the previous trailer. And then the last one was 30 seconds of Fast and Furious 9, or is what they're calling it now, F9, the Fast Saga.
Yeah.
In the States, and here they're just calling it Fast and Furious 9 internationally. But that was coming off the back of a full trailer which got released earlier this week. Now, the full trailer is really long.
Yeah.
For a trailer.
So I think it's 3 minutes?
Three and a half minutes, something like that. Which is long. Like normally normal trailers these days are like two minutes. I think the requirement's now 2. It used to be 2.5 minutes, 2. But obviously because of the way they revealed it and put it online, it won't appear. There will be a cut down version for cinemas. It feels like the last 8 Fast and Furious movies in one trailer.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to describe it. And
there's a lot there.
Someone said to me, it's almost self-parody levels of awareness. And
it's definitely getting there for sure.
You've got rocket cars. You've got a car doing a jump and being picked up by a plane with magnets. You've got Dom driving a car off a bridge that's previously dropped, which we've already seen cars racing across this bridge while it's dropping. He then uses one of the
pylons that's left in
the wire to anchor into the bottom of the car so that he can swing it like a pendulum between two pieces of land.
Yeah, because he attacks it at a slight angle, so he doesn't go off straight, but he goes off enough of an angle where he can go down and then swing back up.
That's just dumb luck at that point. Like, what happens if the thing didn't get caught in the car?
Yeah.
Oh, we just went off a cliff sideways. Oops.
We
wow.
Killed ourselves.
Yeah. I hope you got parachutes.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this the other day when it first dropped. I think I'd read somewhere or an interview or something where someone had said, they'll probably end up going to space.
Oh yeah, everyone's been saying this for years. With that rocket
with
car
the rocket car,
we're one step
probably
away.
confirms it.
Yeah, we're one step away.
I mean,
testing rocket cars. The next thing's going to be a rocket launch car.
I mean, yeah. Well, to be honest, it's probably going to be like an Elon Musk
zoom zoom
cameo
zoom.
or something.
Zoom zoom zoom.
Duckles rule.
Had to do that. But it is. It's ridiculous. It's just like
I truly think at this stage, the Fast and Furious are just like Disney.
No, I won't go
probably
that.
scraping the barrel.
I don't want
or
go,
getting close to
I
it.
won't go that far, but only because they know what their audience is. I mean, there was so many people online that just went, "I want that movie because it's so ridiculous." People want escapism entertainment.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the franchise it is, and I'm happy to say they're a guilty pleasure. Like, I honestly am happy to say that.
Okay.
I have no qualms about every couple of years sitting down and watching the latest Family Connection story with Dominic Toretto and the gang and having a laugh.
Yeah.
Because they are, for all taken of what they are supposed to be, for all purposes and intents, fun.
Yeah.
They're entertaining, they're dumb, you switch your brain off, you watch some cars fly through the air, you watch Dwayne Johnson throw a torpedo at a submarine, you watch cars jump between buildings, you know, and that's what they are. They're just dumb little, silly little asides.
Yeah. Now, quick question about this. Do you think they've spoiled too much?
Oh yeah,
in this trailer,
clearly, way too much. There's just so much. I mean, you've shown people will be so. I'm going to talk about this, and so if you haven't seen the trailer, just avert your ears for about maybe 30 seconds. The reveal of Han at the end,
yeah,
like justice is coming kind of return.
Yeah,
Like,
it was like the hashtag that came out as well.
They knew that
like justice for Han.
I guess they kind of had to show this because the people continue to ask questions about what they were going to do. But I still think it would make more sense at this point for Giselle to come back. A
lot of people are saying that as well.
For Gal Gadot's character to come back, because we didn't actually see her die. She just kind of disappeared into the blackness.
And it's assumed that she died. I suppose
more than Han, who we always assumed that he died too, but there was a car explosion pretty soon after his crash, while we were shown that he was pinned upside down.
The thing with that, though, is that...
Which they then retconned.
Yeah,
slightly.
is that Letty assumedly died as well.
But that was a bit different. I'm getting deep into my Fast and Furious lore here. I get my conspiracy.
Here we go.
You didn't see Letty die. You assumed Letty died, and then we see what Dom thinks happens, as opposed to what actually happened, which is different.
Okay.
Because what happens is you see Dom and he looks at because people have made jokes about this. This is why I remember this so well. People made jokes about it. He does the whole detective thing. He's like looking and there's some marks on the ground and some petrol, and he stands up and then you see this car like come past and it kind of goes through him and he watches it crash and roll and then the thing gets shot and explodes and Letty gets shot up close. But apparently that's his interpretation of what happened, whereas what they did end up showing is that she managed to escape the car and the car exploded and she got blown away.
Yeah.
And then
that's what caused her amnesia.
And then Gal Gadot's character came and rescued her. So it's a bit different. Like they've kind of established two versions of the events and then never really confirmed the first version that we saw was actually correct, and then kind of retconned that but didn't, and that they said that was just what Dom thought happened, or from what he'd heard was a description of what may have happened to what actually happened. But we clearly see Han's car upside down that exploded in Tokyo Drift. Then we get the retcon where he was rammed by Shaw's car, and then he gets out and he is talking to Dom while it explodes very shortly after smashing the car. So they're going to have some sort of story.
Some sort of retcon that someone pulled him out or something.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. But the other thing is you see the other character from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, Lucas Black.
Lucas Black's character is in the trailer and nobody mentioned this. You barely see him. He's not even featured properly. He kind of just pops into a shot at one point.
Yeah, he's sort of out of focus as well.
Is that? By the when they're doing the rocket car testing, I was like, did I just see that? Like, I don't know. Anyway,
I think one thing that they're probably still missing is Eva Mendes. I mean, she was prominent in Too Fast, Too Furious, and then she was at the end of 5?
Yeah, the cameo where she
that brief scene
where Letty.
Yeah, so we just found out Letty's still alive. It's like, is she going to come back at all, or is she done? Or if they're short of characters, I mean, they've still got her to bring back.
Yeah. And they could just add in, I mean, yeah, and this is the thing we haven't even touched on, which is Dom's brother.
Yeah.
So John Cena's playing Dom's brother. And that was where the self-parody thing, and the person was like, so he's like this trained blah, 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 and he's ready, blah, 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 blah. It's like checklists of like, he's skilled at this, and skilled at that, and skilled at that.
Yeah, he wants to be better than Dom.
Dom, yeah. Which I guess is a good idea for motivation, but reading off. And it was nice to see Charlize Theron back and Helen Mirren and all that sort of stuff. Again, as I said, they are a guilty pleasure. I enjoy the absurdity of them. And as everyone always points out, there's no way when that first movie came out in 2001, you sat down and watched that, you would know that it would become one of the biggest franchises on the planet. Yeah. You honestly would never have guessed that. I remember going and seeing that movie and going, yep, that was Point Break. I just watched Point Break with bloody cars. It is exactly the same plot beats, the same twists, the same misdirects, same character setups, FBI agent, criminal. It's just car racing instead of surfing. And, stealing DVD players, DVD and VCR players, that it is bank heists.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I think it was Patrick Williams made a joke when he was doing his Fast and Furious thing years ago. He said, when they finish the series, it has to come back to something to do with DVD players and VHS, just because to loop the whole thing around in some sort of weird joke.
Well, especially if they keep coming back and retconning stuff somehow.
Who knows?
Have to.
Changing the time frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all those out of date technology in 2006, that doesn't make any sense for. Yeah, let's not even go down that path.
No, we won't.
Far too much talked about Fast and Furious as it is.
For sure.
We should just move on to our reviews.
Yeah, we shall. We'll move on to the reviews. Do you want to start off with Jumanji: The Next Level?
Yeah, really solid sequel. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as the previous one, but I think that kind of it's one of those films which is like it's got high expectations that are hard to match. So being at least as enjoyable is a good response. And I laughed. I found it entertaining. There's a little bit of repetition, but then there's also some clever ways. And I think the thing that got me, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I will mention it, is the end setup. was killer, and I was just like, okay, I definitely want to see them continue because of that, the way they set it up and the way it works into the universe. There's a couple of really new sly connections to the original movie, which puts it still definitely in the same universe. It's quite clever as well, and there was definitely some unexpected little twists and stuff, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, very funny. Yeah, and definitely enjoy it.
All right. Now, we went and saw Spies in Disguise, was it end of November? Start of December?
What are you talking about, end of November? It didn't come out till... you really do have a struggle with the time.
Did it come out this year?
It didn't come out till January 1st.
Oh, shit.
If we'd seen it end of November, we would have talked about it in the December episode.
Yeah, fair, cool.
Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
You really... Time flows.
Time for me is just a construct.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw it at the start of January, so... I'll let you talk about it.
I don't know how well my review's going to be then.
This will be interesting. So he'll start talking about stuff that didn't happen in any movie I ever saw. I'm like, what the hell is this movie?
No, I really enjoyed it as a concept. And I think it's definitely going to potentially go towards a sequel, or at least that's what they were looking at going to.
I would like to see a sequel to it.
Yeah, I think I would probably enjoy a sequel. I definitely think...
It's sequel-worthy.
Yeah. I definitely think the chemistry between Will Smith and Tom Holland was pretty good as like a top secret super spy and then a nerdy tech kid.
It was funny too because
help out.
I was thinking beforehand, the movie itself, the idea to me I thought it was going to be kind of weak. Like I was just like, oh, this seems silly. Then he's intended a pigeon, and this seems really weak. But it was actually really funny because the stuff outside of it was actually really well thought out, and the humor actually worked. Some pretty egregious product placement aside, it was actually legitimately funny, and the voice
especially
cast
for a kids' film.
Yeah, for a kids' film, it was very product placement heavy. It was really weird, and then having to animate all this product placement too was kind of. But other than that, and Ben Mendelsohn being Ben Mendelsohn, bad guy again.
Yeah,
but he was good. He was actually
good.
It was actually pretty good. It was a good choice. So yeah, I enjoyed it too.
My only criticism is that just that style of animation, I'm just not keen on it. Where they've got like big bodies and heads and then like really skinny long legs.
It just disproportionate sizes and like angular features almost.
Like, I know it's a kids film and kids aren't really going to care, but make it look human, more human.
It depends on the style. Like I went and saw the Addams Family movie, as I said, and they liked the style of that because it was akin to Charles Addams' original designs, and the way it fit the world worked perfectly. And it works for certain character types. Like, it's very much in the Despicable Me kind of frame, right? But it works for that movie because the characters in that movie are varying shapes. So you've got your minions, and they're kind of small and round, and like pills. And then Gru's got, like, very round body, but very tiny limbs. Yeah. It's very disproportionate. And then, like, the Hotel Transylvania franchise, same kind of thing. But here, the characters are supposed to be a bit more realistic, I think. So it kind of looks... They're not, like, too thin and not cartoony enough, but they're not proportionate to an actual human, and there's a balance that maybe is a little bit out of whack. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, that's my only criticism from it, really.
Visually, the colours are cool, the designs are cool. I love the spy gadgets. I love the interplay between the characters. It had some good adult jokes in there too.
Yeah,
that
of course, go over kids'
heads.
To use a pun, would fly over kids' heads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely.
Now, you went and saw the One Shot 1917.
One Shot's a bit of a misnomer for multiple reasons. One, the director said it's not really one shot. It's like a film with no edits, which is also not true because it is a film with edits, but they're hidden edits. But there's also two parts to it. One, and it's kind of multiple, but it's not really. There's two sequences essentially. If you're going to say there was shots from where they go, there's two sequences. It's made to be a certain thing, it looks, but it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning, and it's winning awards, and it probably win Oscars, and deservedly so. And if Deakins doesn't win another Oscar for the cinematography, I'll be disappointed because he's been snubbed so many times for other movies, and yet this film is amazing. The planning, coordination, going and looking at the behind the scenes is absolutely amazing, and I recommend anyone not look up that stuff before, read about it or watch it until they've seen the movie, then go and look at it afterwards, and you'll realise, oh my god, like, because in the movie it's amazing, and then to find out how it was put together adds another layer to just how much production work went on it. Yeah, it was really good, and cast was amazing. The way it's shot, the way it's planned, it's a very tension-filled ride, and it's definitely worth taking.
Move on to our next one, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Now, this kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier, but how did you see it?
Throw you under the bus here. Well, you throw me under the bus. I wanted to buy it legitimately, but you can't buy it here. It hasn't had a theatrical screening, hasn't it? So I was like, I wasn't going to bother watching it, but then you had the chance to see it through your work.
Yeah, it was on our servers at work, and I just happened to be fortunate enough to see it there.
And so you watched it, and I was like, well, I want to watch it because I like this franchise, and I don't think you would have even watched that movie if I hadn't shown you the franchise. So I was like, well, it gives me something to talk to you about that's interesting. Like, so I was like, right, I'm just going to download it. And I'll buy it eventually. And I will because I've
Pirate.
got it. Thanks. I'm going to buy it because I will, and I like, I'm going to buy it because, but it is definitely his weakest of the rescue films. I think that's a pretty easy way to say it. He loves it and he's happy, and I can see why. And I think there's true heart to it. I'll definitely give it that. There's a pun intended there with the fact that obviously the heart attack, but there's actually true pathos in it. And I can see where the gem of the idea with Jason Mewes and his actual daughter bode well to telling the story. But it's just, and I don't mind Smith's nods to his films and all that stuff, but he's not even just doubling down, but it's like tripling down.
Yeah, I think some of his nods, especially with like the Loki cameo in it, and then or the Matt Damon, and then
that would have worked if it was the whole framing narrative around it. I would have believed that a lot better. The same thing with the final act, where it becomes this big messy thing where now Kevin Smith is a person in his own film universe.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit weird because it's like if they're going back to Hollywood to stop Blunt Man and Chronic reboot, because the first one was directed by Chris Rock's character, so it wasn't even Kevin Smith anyway.
No,
so Kevin Smith's
directing a sequel,
in universe directing a sequel
to
a movie by someone else,
or based on a franchise, or reboot, or so they're saying it's not really a sequel. But on top of that as well, is this him trying to make a comment on the whole meta element of like Kevin Smith existing as a filmmaker in the Marvel universe with the reference of having Mallrats and Captain Marvel? If so, that's not the same Kevin Smith. That's the Kevin Smith that. Yeah, it's getting complicated. So but hands down to me, the best scenes in the movie are stuff with Jason Mewes and Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn, who the two of them play off each other really well, and it was actually a semi-believable scenes. And surprising above all, Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
That stuff with Ben Affleck was gold. It felt like classic Smith.
Yeah.
And the winks and nods there were just pitch perfect enough. Like the whole thing about him making jokes about Batman, and then just going and the character's mum, who I can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
That's the sort of
then
level.
It's the turn to camera as well.
And then the turn to camera. That was pitch perfect. Yeah. That scene was like quintessential Smith.
I definitely think he knows how to write for Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
But with some of the other characters, is a bit.
Yeah.
But I just think him and Affleck just have that certain connection that they know how to do with each other.
It just works so well. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I'm interested more when Smith, like if Smith makes Clerks 3 or Mallrats, I would feel they won't be as winking nods, because that's what Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back was too. Was a bit of a winking nod about Hollywood, right? So I feel that it won't put it in the same stead, that they'll be in the same realm. They'll be their own things, and there won't be too much overt reference, and it'll go back to that balance, right, where certain characters just exist in that universe, and there's some pop culture references, but they're more broad and all that sort of stuff. But it's definitely probably my weakest of that franchise, if you want to put all of those films together. Do you agree?
See, I'd probably have to go back and see Chasing Amy again, because I think I've only seen that like once, and I don't really remember it.
They make reference
everything else I remember quite well, but that one I don't.
I kind of like that. Also, was in the Affleck scene. They make some riffing on the fact that obviously Chasing Amy at its time was considered a reasonably positive film, and then in the hindsight of 25 years, people were like, it's not the most positive outcome of anyone who's gay or bisexual, at least anyway, as far as treatment, but making jokes does not solve that problem, and it exists as a film, and Smith just has to accept that, and he kind of instead turns it into this little winky nod thing. It was a little bit too cringe too for me, to be honest, but I still think as a story, if you remove that element from it, the story is still better than the one in this one. So I don't know, it'll come out here eventually, and I'll pick up a copy, and if I feel really bad for Kevin Smith, I'll pay for a signed copy from his website, so he gets a few extra bucks.
And
I actually have a copy and I have to pirate off the internet.
Now, you saw Bombshell?
Yeah, Bombshell was really good. Not what I was expecting at all, which is, I mean, like, content-wise, it was what I was expecting, but I was expecting a very straightforward film, and I expected, like, oh, here we go, we've got these famous people playing people. But do you know what? The makeup effects really sold me on it. You know, Charlize Theron doesn't almost look like Charlize Theron, and she adapts her subjects' affectations and mannerisms and all these things really, really well. And obviously having these effects on, you know, she really becomes Megan Kelly. And the same with John Lithgow as well. He's both recognizable and yet unrecognizable in character, and it was just amazing to watch this interactions between the characters. Margot Robbie plays very almost Margot Robbie-esque character you expect in these sorts of films, not in a bad way, but like obviously based on a person, not in specific detail, but someone who would be the sort of person that Roger Ailes would, you know, prey upon to put on his network, the network that he ran for the Murdochs. There's probably better versions of the story out there. You can probably read all about it. You don't need to see it in a film version, but if you want a digestible version that shows it in a particular style, it's definitely worth watching, and the cast kind of elevates it above, I think, what would have been otherwise could have been a very mediocre film if given to the wrong people, you know. The thing that threw me out of it more than anything is Kate McKinnon is in it, and so to see her playing a straight-laced character in a world where I know she does parodies of people like these people from Fox, it was a bit surrealist at first when I didn't even know she was in it. So when she appeared on the screen, I was like, huh? Like, what?
When did this become an SNL skit?
When did she... But she's good. She's really good in it. Her role is that she's actually like quite a... I don't want to say left wing, but like she's kind of like, her belief system is very open, and she's wanted to be in journalism. She's also, the character that she's playing is also true to her, who's actually a lesbian. So it's interesting. It becomes a character arc about why a person like that would end up working at Fox, Fox News. And that's kind of its own little thing, which kind of complements the story in some respects. And I was quite pleasantly surprised by that. I didn't expect it. Some people might consider it a little bit unnecessary, but it does tie into the main story. I'm trying to undersell this just to not ruin anything, but if people were kind of wanting twists in a real life story, but you know, there's bits obviously that are fragmented and put together and stuff, but it's a way of telling a story, and I think for what it achieves, it's pretty good.
Okay. And you saw the Kristen Stewart movie Underwater?
Yeah, it's like Alien in the Abyss.
Okay.
Put together.
Is any deep blue sea in there? Or?
No. Well, yeah, there is. Like, there's an underwater facility. This one is like in the Mariana Trench. It's like almost 7 miles underwater, and they're digging. But then there's shades of like piranha in there as well. They've opened like a fissure, or like, you know, Godzilla or kaiju or whatever. They've opened like this fissure in the ground, and these creatures have been let out that have been harboring in a warm core base, and they get let out in the water, and of course they're hunting for warmth. So they attack things. Well, this is where I can figure it out. They don't really explain it, but it seems like they talk about the temperature rising, and they attack things for warmth and then eat things that they find, obviously. It has pacing issues, which is a shame, and then but the concept is so great. The complex is amazing. It's got a really good visual design. It was filmed like 2 or 3 years ago, which explains why it's got TJ Miller in it, pre his big media blowout on his... Well, let's not even bother talking about it. But, and he's probably, in some ways, both best worst things about it. He gets some very good funny moments, but he's also annoyingly distracting in only the way that TJ Miller can. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition. But it is playing that whole thing of like Alien. You know, you're waiting for crew members. Are they going to survive? Are they not going to survive? How are they going to die? You've got this added element of like they're in the station, and the station's, you know, breaking apart. Then, you know, are they going to go out into the ocean, and they're going to have to use tanks? Nobody's really walked around in these these scuba suits, which are really amazing designs. They're like modern technology, kind of like they're in that sort of connected parts of stuff coming together. Like I don't even know how to describe it, but when you see it, you go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, to say more is to not ruin it, because it's kind of predictable, but it's kind of still fun. And yeah, pacing issues aside, and maybe a few little quibbles, it was worth watching. I wouldn't go see the movies, but but it was worth watching.
Something to switch your brain off for.
Yeah, and just have a laugh. And the cast was good too. You know, it was a good cast generally, aside from Miller's.
Okay.
Yeah.
we've come to our final review, and we've got a special guest reviewer here for us. So we'll let Robbie mention his review first, and then we'll talk to Anne, my girlfriend, who's on here for the first time. So everybody say hi to Anne, and she'll say hi back.
Hi, everyone.
So do you guys want to talk about The Gentleman?
I'll briefly start. I went in with very low expectations of the film, knowing that I'm like, well, Guy Ritchie made some great crime movies in the past, but nowadays, like, his movies are all over the place, and I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine, but not great. Went in, maybe the expectations helped, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was clever. I think it's definitely his best film since Snatch, which is saying a lot, because it's a really great film. So, yeah, I had a good laugh. The amount of swearing, amount of violence and stuff was kind of like the right levels, I think. But the story is told in a very constructive and interesting way. The characters are amazing. The acting's great. Even actors that I wasn't too sure about at first, kind of I warmed to quite quickly. So the casting choices were all really solid, and I couldn't recommend it enough. It may not be for everyone's taste, depending on obviously what you enjoy in the style of movies. If you don't like lots of violence and swearing, you're not going to enjoy that.
Okay.
But if you just enjoy like a nice caper with some swearing and violence, then you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with Robbie. I also was very pleasantly surprised with the film. It was funny because I was like sitting at the new like recliner seats, which Rob also experienced in
those.
event cinemas, and that was the main thing that my dad was excited about, and we'll leave it at that. I think he just didn't enjoy the swearing, but I enjoyed it fully. It was very fulfilling, and I really liked Matthew McConaughey's acting.
All right.
And I found his prodigy, or right hand man, as you would say, very very hot. So that was cool. Yeah.
It took me a while to warm to Hunnam's character. It wasn't until, and I've talked about this with you, there's a particular scene where he kind of has to take charge, and I went, oh, okay, this is good. This is where he's kind of...
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
That's where I really was like, okay, he's good. Because at one point he'd just kind of been sitting there listening to a lot of Hugh Grant waffling on amazingly too.
And Hugh Grant was really surprisingly good as well, because I grew up with... Well, I haven't seen Hugh Grant in TV lately, so I was very pleasantly surprised because I grew up with, like...
Notting Hill and all those
exactly. Rom-com Hugh Grant, and I was like,
typical stuttering Englishman.
Hugh
Grant swearing and stuff.
I still haven't seen Paddington, but apparently he's really good in that too. But he was good. It's funny because
is he in Paddington?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's also the little. I'll mention this, but I won't say why. You saw at the end. There's that poster for Man from Uncle in the background.
Yes, I did.
He's in that movie.
I love that. I was like, oh my god, that's a great little like.
I was like, he's in that movie. That's so weird. Like it's so weird.
Little spoiler around.
But he was good in that. He was good in that movie as well. So it's just like really weird that he's like in that. I was like, oh. Okay.
But yeah, it was really good. I'm not usually a fan of Colin Farrell. Is that his? Yeah. Because he's such a like poster bad boy, but
he's good at being the bad boy.
His humor here kind of helped with it. Like he's just so like.
Ironically too, he's not the worst bad boy in this movie.
No,
he's actually quite level-headed. His character.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, absolutely.
He means well. I think it's just.
He's the reason everyone's alive in that movie.
Yeah. It's a very valid point.
Spoiler alert. Sorry. Yeah, I think Ryan, you would like it.
Okay.
I would really like to see it again with you.
All right, sounds like date night.
Another
date night.
Another date night.
This time with my significant other.
Yeah, not just with me or other randoms.
Yeah. Does it sound like I get around?
It does sound a little bit like
I'm like a beach boy, aren't I?
Yeah. As long as you're not playing any shooting
with
hunting lodges. That was the thing I just said. Don't play any hunting lodges. As a beach boy, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have a talk after this.
Awesome.
But yeah, liked it overall. Probably rate it like 8 out of 10.
Whoa.
All right, that's quite high, yeah. I don't think we've given up rating movies now.
I don't think we even bothered. We just say, yes, we're seeing...
I think we did it like the first episode, didn't we? We rated a couple, but that was about it.
I think it's easier just to say whether or not it's worth seeing or worth seeing at the cinema. I think it's much easier. And I would definitely say it's worth seeing. And if you see it at the cinema...
Go to the cinema, the new cinema and event cinemas.
I'm sure
that's if you're in Auckland. if you're an international listener, it's probably a bit difficult.
If you're in New Zealand,
yeah.
Or Australia, I think you're in Australia as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, this has been a paid advertisement for Bean Cinema.
Hashtag no ad.
It's not a paid for product placement.
Yeah, no, awesome.
Finally, we have got to the end of this episode. If you've stuck around this long,
I have no idea how long this is going to be. Like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we hope we haven't bored you to death. We hope you're still listening.
We've just been so busy talking about all the stuff that's happened over the last month. Next episode, cut back, slim.
Yeah,
trim.
we're going to cut a whole lot of stuff.
I think we just talk about movies and the trailers and just pick out some choice news because we just had so much to talk. We all both wanted to talk about this time. It's crazy.
It's far too much. We need to self-edit before we make a big list.
We're turning into the Tarantino of podcasting.
I think we are. We really are.
Editor come in that really is like, yeah, you guys need to talk about that. And did you really need to talk about Fast and the Furious for 10 minutes? Like, did you really need to talk about how you love Dominic Toretto's gang of misfits?
The irony is, like, all of the news we said we were going to talk for about a minute. I think we just completely forgot about that.
I think some of it we were like
some of it we probably did,
and then others were just like
going.
5 minutes of this, and then we'd go on a tangent over here.
So we're sorry, and we know we're drawing this out longer, but
someone's sticking around. They're just like, "Are you guys going to get to the punchline?
Yeah.
Are you going to do a game? No, we're not going to do a game.
Yeah, sadly, there's no game, so it's probably good for you and for us.
To be honest,
it's been too long already.
I don't think our brains could take a game right now.
No. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share, like, subscribe. All that jazz.
I love your idea. Let's post it on the community wall, the church bulletin board.
Yeah,
all this stuff. I still think that's great.
The church bulletin board.
Yeah. Send it with Nana down to bingo. You know. Go down to Housey or bingo.
Yeah, see the Housey or bingo. Take it down to there.
I listened to this podcast with these young guys from New Zealand. I love them.
Take it down to your RSA or RSL or whatever. Take it down to your fish and chip shop if you want.
Fish and chip shop.
Wherever,
local takeaways.
The local takeaways, that'll work.
I'm sure this makes sense.
Wherever it is allowed post stuff.
I clearly think this ramble is a bit indicative of us being here and being really tired at this
point.
We've
been here too long. We're just rambling. Right. We do need to wrap this up. So like I said, make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Thank you very much. We'll see you for episode 14.
So.
Cheers.